The sky suddenly turned a deep red, as if signaling the approach of an impending apocalypse. At the same time, a colossal monster appeared. It was fierce, destroying buildings wherever it went. Everything around it caused the people to panic and flee, except for one young man named Yi Tian, who went against the crowd and walked toward the monster. Anyone who saw the beast was filled with terror. Some people stood frozen, unable to believe that such a creature had appeared. Yi Tian, at that moment, also stared at the ominous beast blankly, his eyes betraying a hint of fear. Suddenly, his face was illuminated by flashes of energy. Gradually, it spread to his arms. Yi Tian was bewildered, not understanding what was happening. When this energy began to spread throughout his body, causing him to scream in pain. His body was lifted by some mysterious force, and around him, energy light surrounded him, forming a purple sphere from the energy source. At this point, it seemed that only the purple sphere was suspended in the middle of an utterly dark space. While Yi Tian was unconscious, the sphere gradually approached him. It slowly inched closer, and then slipped into his body. At that moment, he suddenly woke up with a start. Lying on the bed, Yi Tian couldn't help but wonder to himself, am I awakening my innate talent? The images I saw earlier must have been illusions appearing during the awakening. Right. He then sat up, gazing out the window in a pensive mood. Everything had to go back 100 years. The sky of Earth had appeared with countless space cracks. Fierce beasts flooded in, threatening the survival of humanity. But at the same time, the dimensional energy activated the innate talents of humans. A small number of people awakened their talents, leading humanity into the talent era. Suddenly, someone outside knocked on his door, and a voice called out to him, "Big brother, are you feeling better? Have you awakened your talent?" He didn't answer, merely staring at the stone in his hand. The stone was black, with golden circles in the center. At that moment, a surge of energy appeared alongside the words weak talent, which made him feel somewhat discouraged. Weak talent. Does that mean this life is a lost cause? If I can't become a warrior, how will I protect my sister in the future? With that, he tossed the stone onto the ground and quietly turned his attention to the scenery outside the window. Just then, his younger sister, Yi Yu, joyfully opened the door and entered. She was still full of excitement and curiosity, eager to know about her brother's talent. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Why, you said, how's the aptitude test going?" Yi Tian, though feeling down, forced a smile and pretended, "Of course, it's going great." She, without any suspicion, cheerfully asked, "Really?" He reassured her, "Don't worry, I will definitely become the strongest warrior." Yi Yu jumped up with joy. "Yay, I knew my big brother is the best. Let's go, I'll make your favorite dish, just waiting to celebrate your test results." He nodded in agreement. As Yi Yu was about to leave the room, a smart screen suddenly appeared in front of him, which took him by surprise. Yi Yu, however, didn't notice it, and wondered why he was standing there frozen. "Hurry up! What are you waiting for?" The screen displayed some information about the person in front of him, such as Human, Yi Yu, Talent Level 2nd Class, Ice Talent, Novice, Not Awakened. Seeing this data, his eyes widened unconsciously, and he quickly reached out, trying to swipe it away. The screen then displayed Human, Yi Tian, Talent Level Weak. Looking at the data, he was confused. What is this? Before he could be lost in thought for too long, Yi Yu came over and pulled his hand, startling him into letting out a small cry. She smiled and said, "Come on, the food is getting cold." As she held his hand, a purple light appeared around them, and the electronic screen changed its display. It now showed Human, Yi Yu, Talent Level 2nd Class, can copy, Ice Talent, Novice, can copy. Looking at these lines, he couldn't help but wonder to himself, is it possible to copy? What does that mean? Then the screen presented him with another question. Is there such a thing as copycat talent? Even if I don't do it, will I gradually realize I can copy someone else's talent? This also meant that someone as useless as him still had a way out. He looked at his hands, unable to believe it. When he entered the kitchen, Yi Yu was bringing out the food and said, "I made your favorite braised pork." He immediately thanked her. Thank you." On the table, Yi Yu had prepared a variety of dishes that Yi Tian loved. While eating, she also served him some food. "Eat more." He replied, "Mem." As he ate, his mind kept drifting back to the decision he had to make earlier. Yes, no, Copycat talent. This ability is so amazing. But I can't test it on my sister. I definitely have to choose no. Her innate talent is already better than mine. Ice talent is extremely rare, and once it awakens, she will definitely be able to defeat any opponent. Then, he thought of his parents. Mom, Dad, if you're watching from the afterlife, you can rest easy now. It turned out that Yi Tian and Yu's parents had passed away, and now the two siblings relied on each other to live. After finishing the meal, Yi Tian walked outside, his feet carrying him through the bustling street. The person wearing a black coat exuded an air of mystery. At that moment, he wanted to test his innate talent to see how it would work. Let's try testing the copycat talent first. He immediately focused on using his talent. Soon, large circles expanded around him, scanning the innate abilities of the people in the area. He also gained some understanding of his own talent. It turns out that the ability to test others' talents only works within a 3-meter range. That's quite limited. After a brief scan, he found nothing but second-class talents, which left him a little disappointed. The talents are all too weak. At least I should be able to copy a mid-level talent. But now that I've awakened my talent, it's weak. But I should be able to visit the academy and take a look. Walking down the street, he continued to think to himself. But what happens if I copy someone else's talent? My talent might change as well, so I can't sign up for those academies that require a talent test. Got it, he said with a slight smile on his face. Before him stood the 5th Academy, the Lin High Base. Looking at the school gates, he felt a surge of joy. Looking around at the people nearby, Yi Tian quietly rejoiced. There must be a lot of people here with mid-level talents. But with the awakening of my copycat talent, I'm sure I'll be stronger than them in the future. After some time, he finally entered the school. Someone said, to become a warrior, you must first become an apprentice. And to become an apprentice, you must first learn the training methods. Someone said, next, let's learn the training method together. The teacher, with great enthusiasm, said, remember clearly, as long as you can condense the vortex of energy in front of your chest, you can consider it a success. The students immediately responded in unison, we understand, sir. Then, everyone sat down to meditate as instructed by the teacher. After a while, they became exhausted. Some even fainted. Teacher, someone has fainted. Meanwhile, Yi Tian was still focused on meditating. The teacher coldly said, don't pay attention to those useless ones. Only by condensing the vortex of energy can one have the hope of becoming a warrior. Yi Tian was also sweating from exhaustion, and he questioned himself. Why am I so weak? What's wrong with me? I can't condense it at all. Is it really because my talent is too poor? After everyone was tired, the teacher scolded. All right, that's enough for today. You guys are the worst group of students I've ever taught. Then he glanced at one of the students in praise. I hope you all follow the example of Chen Dong. Have the drive to improve, and don't be as useless as this anymore. At that moment, Yi Tian also paid attention to the teacher's words. When class was over, he asked his friend Zhang Bao, Zhang Bao, who is Chen Dong? Zhang Bao then said, that guy is no ordinary person. He won and became an apprentice. Now he is a true disciple of the dean. Hearing this, Yi Tian asked, so his talent must be pretty good, right? At that moment, Zhang Bao proudly took out a piece of paper and asked him, haha, guess what this is? Looking at the signature on the paper, Yi Tian curiously replied, a signature. He proudly said, haha, next time, if he's as powerful as the dean, this signature could probably sell for several months' worth of living expenses. Hearing this, he could only feel helpless and didn't say anything more. At the same time, nearby, a crowd was excitedly discussing the appearance of Chen Dong. Look, it's Chen Dong. Hurry, look, Chen Dong is here. At this moment, a blond young man named Chen Dong walked over with a smile. Haha, hello everyone. Come on. Everyone's so happy. Please ask for my autograph. Can you sign for me? Seeing this, Zhang Bao immediately rushed like a rocket toward Chen Dong. Mr. Chen Dong, please sign for me too. Seeing that the person in front of him was the one he needed, Yi Tian smiled. Is that Chen Dong? Chen Dong, on the other side, was graciously thanking everyone. Thank you. Thank you for your support, everyone. A student also complimented him. Mr. Chen Dong, I admire you a lot. The smart screen also displayed Human Chen Dong, talent level mid-level. He smiled faintly and walked over to him. I'm just going over to say hello. Chen Dong, happily addressing the crowd, said, all right, please quiet down for a bit. I'm here today to encourage everyone on behalf of the teacher. As for signatures and such, please save them for later. If it's exposed, others might mock us. Upon hearing this, the crowd began to murmur, and Yi Tian stepped forward to ask, then, how about a handshake? Zhang Bao chimed in as well. Yes. A handshake would be fine too. Hearing this harmless request, Chen Dong didn't hesitate and agreed immediately. All right, good luck. Zhang Bao, who was also given a handshake, after sitting in meditation seriously, energies immediately began to manifest around him. This quickly brought him a sense of pain, and his veins began to bulge. At this moment, Yi Tian cried out in agony. Oh, it hurts. He collapsed face down to the ground. Why is this happening? Is it the fusion of talents? His hands tried to move, and he couldn't help but feel confused. Is it really this painful? Outside, the sky was filled with both rain and thunder. He sat in the cave, gasping for air as he looked out. The screen updated. Human Yi Tian, talent level, mid-level. After that, he smiled faintly. Changing my talent and undergoing a transformation is more painful than I expected, but it's definitely worth it. The screen then displayed another notification. Human Chen Dong, talent level, mid-level. Countdown for copycat talent recovery. 30 days. This surprised him greatly. Does the countdown mean that 30 days later I can still continue to use the copycat talent? This skill is truly terrifying. His eyes were filled with excitement, and then he suddenly remembered what his teacher had said. Right, I should try the training method my teacher taught me. At that moment, a vortex of energy, as described by his teacher, appeared. Seeing it, he was completely taken aback. This is, he thought to himself in astonishment. I didn't expect that after gaining a mid-level talent, the application of the training method would be this simple. Then, he walked out of the cave. Don't tell me I'll just be a warrior. I want to become an elite warrior, and a great warrior as well. The sky suddenly lit up with a long flash of lightning, and he, with eyes full of fury, stepped outside, then smiled faintly with a sense of self-satisfaction. A month later, on one particular evening, when the moon was full, an ominous beast appeared again. It had extremely sharp fangs and eyes filled with a murderous aura. On the street, a father and son were still unaware of anything, chatting happily. Dad, what are we having for dinner tonight? What does little one want to eat? I want to eat beef stew with bread. When we get home, you can cook it for me. Meanwhile, Yi Tian, holding a lantern, walked in the opposite direction. He thought to himself, although I've become an apprentice, I'm still far from being a warrior. Chen Dong, who has been specially mentored, will definitely improve faster than I will. Suddenly, blood splattered, and a lantern Yi Tian was holding fell from his hand without him realizing it. It turned out that the ominous beast had arrived. With one swift motion, it attacked the father of the little girl. Yi Tian also sensed something was wrong behind him. When he turned around, he saw the blood of the man splattering everywhere. The little girl, witnessing the scene, froze in shock. Then, in terror, called out, Dad! The ominous beast, seeing the girl, bared its sharp fangs, intending to devour her as well. Watching the man being attacked by the ominous beast, Yi Tian stood frozen for a moment. The people on the street turned to look back, their faces stricken with fear, breaking into cold sweat, and unable to speak. Fierce. Some people shouted, the ominous beast is here, run quickly. A few people were still standing there, dazed, watching the ominous beast devouring a person in front of them, while others had already realized the situation and continued to shout warnings. The ominous beast is killing people. Yi Tian widened his eyes and looked in that direction, his face expressionless. That is, in the street, a huge black shadow in the shape of a beast was devouring something. The little girl remained standing still beside it, not running away. Continuing his thoughts about the ominous beast, its face revealed bright red eyes, sharp fangs, and a fierce expression as it turned towards them. A sudden silence fell, and then the ominous beast went berserk, roaring and leaping towards them. Yi Tian immediately rushed over and grabbed the little girl, pulling her to safety. He regained his composure, realizing its speed was too fast. There was no way he could escape. Just as he thought he was about to die, someone holding a sword, wearing a red cloak, appeared in the sky, witnessing the scene and preparing to dive down. A muscular man stood in front of him, carrying the little girl in his arms, and swung his sword at the ominous beast. The ground cracked open in a long trench from the strike, but the ominous beast managed to dodge and growled in response. A streak of white light with silent circles of energy shot in one direction, and the actual fierce beast retreated, rocks and debris scattering in all directions. The ominous beast exuded a red, murderous aura, baring its fangs in fury. Its eyes burned with red light, while the man in the red cloak, also glaring at the ominous beast with eyes full of deadly intent, held his sword towards it. He exuded a powerful aura as well. He spoke, "Sorry, I'm late." His expression shifted, frowning, yet he smiled, still meeting the ominous beast's gaze with a deadly look. Yi Tian set the little girl down and asked him, "Who are you?" He replied, "Everyone calls me Captain Windwolf." Captain Windwolf smiled and turned to Yi Tian, saying, "Just leave the silver moon mink to me. You protect the child." Yi Tian immediately responded, "Moonlit silver fox." The little girl, frightened, clung to his leg. All the muscles in Windwolf's face tensed up. He drew his sword and rushed forward, shouting, "Come here, beast." A silver flash streaked across the air as Windwolf jumped and struck twice, crossing his sword towards the fierce moonlit silver fox. Yi Tian covered the little girl's eyes with his hand and looked on, saying, "Be gentle, don't look." Captain Windwolf gritted his teeth, using all his strength to strike at the ominous beast, but not forgetting to praise it. "Not bad, you're quite strong." He gripped the hilt of his sword with both hands, then, with a swift motion, delivered a blow that sent the ominous beast flying. Without pausing for rest, he quickly moved toward the spot where the beast was about to land. He continued to strike at it, but the beast immediately dodged. It was as if he knew the beast's moves in advance. No wonder it was a silver moon mink. Its speed was incredible. While focusing on the ominous beast in front of him, he added, "But don't forget, I have teammates." No sooner had he finished speaking than 3 young men holding swords appeared out of nowhere to assist. The ominous beast, which had been circling around Captain Windwolf, suddenly roared. The 3 men thrust their swords straight into the ground, causing the earth and rocks to explode. Realizing it couldn't defeat them alone, the silver fox fled. One of the 3 turned and shouted, "Captain!" The ominous beast had lost control and charged straight at him. Captain Windwolf raised his sword, bracing himself. At the perfect moment, he struck the beast. Taking advantage of this, his 3 teammates immediately rushed forward to join the fight. A blood-soaked sword was thrust into the ominous beast by the whole team, with fresh blood splattering everywhere. One person withdrew their sword and asked, "Is it dead?" The ominous beast's legs suddenly twitched. The captain immediately noticed that the beast had turned red. It tilted its head back and let out a painful roar. The 4 team members realized the danger and scattered immediately. The ominous beast's bloodline erupted. "Everyone, be careful." One teammate leaped into the air. The captain retreated towards Yi Tian and the girl. Concerned, the teammate asked, "Captain, are you all right?" He replied, "I'm fine." The silver light turned red, and the beast went berserk, fleeing. "It's running." Yi Tian looked uneasily in that direction and responded to her unease with just 2 words. "Don't worry." A red aura spread across the sky. The captain confidently laughed, "It won't escape." Under the full moon, a shadow appeared on the other side of the building, radiating a pinkish energy. A girl with long black hair, wearing armor, raised her bow and confidently said, "I've been waiting for you for a long time." She then released the string, and an arrow was shot, heading straight for the ominous beast from afar. Silver Fox sensed the danger, turned around, and roared loudly as the arrow sped toward it. Its face twisted in anger, still emanating killing intent. Its eyes darkened. The arrow struck the beast, piercing its body, and blood splattered. The ominous beast collapsed heavily to the ground in front of Captain Windwolf. Yi Tian and the girl clung to him. The captain wore a triumphant smile and looked at the ominous beast, saying, "You want to fight us? You're still too inexperienced." The 4 teammates approached the ominous beast lying flat on the road, enthusiastically praising each other. "Indeed, it's a perfect kit every time." The girl responded, "Ha, of course." Yi Tian widened his eyes in doubt, looking ahead, wondering if this was the beast's innate talent. The status window popped up with a notification. Ominous beast, silver moon mink, bloodline talent 2nd class, speed talent novice. Yi Tian couldn't believe his eyes, staring at the details displayed on the status window. Ominous Beast Silver Moon Mink. Bloodline Talent Second Class. Speed Talent Novice. He couldn't help but ask again in surprise, "Is this the Beast talent?" The girl standing next to him anxiously looked forward, the Silver Moon Mink's foot trembling. "Run!" Yi Tian broke into a sweat, his gaze unfocused. The four others had lowered their guard and were chatting idly. This kind of speed is indeed tricky, but we've finally dealt with it. Let's have a drink. They still hadn't noticed that the ominous beast was shaking, preparing to rise. The team leader immediately shouted a warning. "Hey, everyone, be careful." The four were startled and quickly turned around. "It's still alive, scatter quickly." The four immediately dispersed in different directions. The Silver Moon Mink continued to slowly move forward, suddenly howling, regaining its intimidating presence. The entire team was thrown into confusion. The ominous beast is truly terrifying. We didn't expect its vitality to be so strong. What should we do now? Team leader, team leader. The team leader stood firmly in front of his teammates and said, "Don't worry, it's very weak right now. Leave it to me." Captain Wind Wolf, with a serious expression, turned to the other side and warned, "We can't stay here for long. You need to leave quickly. Do you hear me? Don't just stand there." It turned out that he was reminding Yi Tian, who was still standing motionless on the other side. Yi Tian completely ignored the warning and flashed a dangerous smile. The opportunity has come. Yi Tian swiftly dashed in front of Captain Windwolf, leaving him in shock, yelling in surprise, "Ha!" Yi Tian clenched his fist, and a white aura radiated in waves. With all his strength, he swung his fist directly at the head of the Silver Moon Mink. The status window displayed, "Copycat Talent Ominous Beast Successful." His clenched hand emanated an energy flow. He tumbled over the ominous beast, riding its back and landing several punches. Each time he punched, the status window would display, "Copycat Talent Successful." The Silver Moon Mink howled in pain. Yi Tian did not stop. His eyes bloodshot, he raised both hands into tight fists. With all his might, he punched the ominous beast. The status window repeatedly flashed, "Copy Ominous Beast Successful, Copy Ominous Beast Successful, Copy Ominous Beast Successful." He had beaten it so badly that the beast blood splattered onto his face. "Copy Ominous Beast Successful, Copy Ominous Beast Successful." Yi Tian's expression shifted, a cold smile forming, as though he had achieved his goal. The window continued to pop up, "Copy Ominous Beast Successful." The blood-soaked fist was still raised. Captain Windwolf quickly grabbed his hand, stopping him, and shouted, "Don't do it! Stop, but it's dead already." At that moment, Yi Tian was like a soulless corpse, confirming again, "It's dead, right?" In fact, what he was thinking was, "Of course I know that." The blood-stained hand continued to swing down at the ominous beast that had been dead for a long time. His thoughts continued, "Because I successfully copied the ominous beast's innate ability." The captain shouted loudly, giving orders to the team members. "All right, start cleaning up the battlefield. You guys take the man and the silver fox's bodies. And you, take care of the little girl." Yi Tian stepped aside. 3 of the team members were responsible for clearing the bodies of the ominous beast and the man. The girl, leading the little girl, responded, "Yes, Captain." Before leaving, Captain Windwolf rested his sword on his shoulder and didn't forget to leave a word for Yi Tian. "Goodbye, young man. When you become a warrior, join my Windwolf team." Yi Tian, covered in blood, heard this and his eyes lit up. He smiled and replied, "Yes." The street was peaceful again. His 2 blood-soaked hands were washed under the faucet, cleaning the blood off his face first. Yi Tian was in the restroom, using both hands to wash his face, thinking, "If Yi sees this, she'll definitely worry." He bent down to wash his face, and when he finished, there was no trace of blood left, just a few droplets of water. His gaze was distant, and no one knew what he was thinking. The sky was clear above the neighborhood, and a hand reached out to grasp the latch, preparing to open the door. Yi Tian stepped into the house after a long night. He slipped his hands into his pockets, gazing at something with a reassuring look in his eyes. He looked at his younger sister, Yi Yu, curled up soundly asleep on the bed, unaware of anything. In her dream, she had seen something and unconsciously called out, "Brother Yi Tian." She called out to him in her sleep, and Yi Tian saw that she was still safe and sound. He let out a sigh of relief. A table full of food had been prepared, with 2 bowls of rice. He thought about the unforgettable experience of the day, which was the first time he had witnessed an ominous beast with his own eyes. He lowered his head, holding the neatly folded blanket in his hands as he walked over and tucked it over his little sister. Yi Tan smiled, but a sense of unease lingered in his heart. The fear he felt was far more terrifying than the ominous beasts in the stories, 100, 1,000 times more. He silently vowed to protect her. His younger sister pulled the blanket up, sleeping peacefully with a faint smile on her face, surely dreaming of something beautiful. I must quickly become a warrior, Yi Tan thought to himself as he opened the door and entered his own room. He picked up a piece of cloth and sat down on the bed. Yi Tan wondered whether the abilities of the ominous beast could merge with the human body. He opened his status window to take a look, his eyes narrowing. The status window displayed Ominous Beast Silver Moon Mink, second-class bloodline talent, novice speed talent. He stood frozen in front of the status window for a moment, deep in thought. Maybe it'll be even more painful than the last time I merged a talent. It could even be life-threatening. The status window still appeared. Ominous Beast Silver Moon Mink, second-class bloodline talent, novice speed talent, but to become stronger, to protect those who mattered to him. He held the cloth, preparing to shove it into his mouth. Yi Tan made a decision. He could only risk his life. He clenched the cloth tightly, accepting the pain. His eyes filled with determination that no matter what, whether he lived or died, he had to become stronger. The status window turned pitch black, and the speed talent began to replicate. Yi Tan held the cloth in his mouth, beginning to feel the pain. At first, a vein appeared on his face. He lay on the ground, rolling, his hands covered with veins, cold sweat dripping onto the floor. The pain was so intense, it felt as if his bones were shattering. He pressed both hands against the floor, his eyes bloodshot, mouth clenched around the cloth, resembling a beast on the verge of madness. The pain continued to spread to his legs. His feet started to bulge with veins, trembling with agony. His legs suddenly stretched out, contorting grotesquely. He screamed, but no sound came out, the pain overwhelming and hopeless. Ah! The cloth fell from his mouth, his entire body writhing uncontrollably, his legs now deformed. He looked at his legs, blood splattered on the floor, struggling to gasp. They're broken. In the darkness, only the traces of blood and his mutilated legs were visible. Yi Tan froze. Could it be that the copycat talent failed? Suddenly, he felt the world around him collapse. Damn it! He wondered what his little sister, who was still sleeping soundly, would think when her big brother became useless. The only thing in his mind was the name Yi Yu. The sky was already bright, and sunlight streamed into Yi Tan's room. He was lying on the floor, his body still intact. He reached up to touch his head, then suddenly sat up, breathing heavily. Yi Tan still couldn't understand what was happening. He looked at his hand, wondering what exactly happened. Then his gaze fell on his unscathed foot. He stood up and kicked the air above him. A red aura, similar to the energy radiating from a silver moon mink, swirling around him. He couldn't believe the rapid change in his body. Looking at his leg, he marveled, "Oh wow, my body feels so light." Yi Tan's eyes widened in astonishment, as if he had just seen something extraordinary. The status window reappeared. Human Yi Tan. Talent level. Mid-level. Speed affinity. Novice. It was then that he realized the copycat talent worked. At the 5th Academy, the small forest area was a section with several buildings scattered around the woods, with a swimming pool in the center. A flash of red lightning streaked by, and wherever his feet touched, a red streak followed in his wake. In no time, all that could be seen was a bolt of lightning flying from one end of the forest to the other. Yi Tan used his speed affinity, dashing through the forest, leaping high into the air. He was overjoyed with both his speed and skill, floating mid-air with a bright smile on his face, ready to land. Yi Tan had combed his hair up today, revealing his handsome face. He smiled lightly, chuckling softly, then leaped down from the mountaintop. The landing caused a crater to form, with energy radiating fiercely and dust billowing everywhere. Yi Tan stood alone in the forest, exuding a powerful energy. A leaf was about to fall, and he suddenly opened his eyes, using his speed to rush forward. The leaf was still slowly descending, and his hand reached out to it, the leaf still floating gently in the air. Yi Tan grabbed the leaf, stood upright on the ground, and confidently said, The speed of the silver moon mink is indeed formidable. With that, he jumped up onto a large rock and began to meditate. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and his Kai surrounded him. While concentrating on circulating his energy, he thought, if we'd only talk about speed, I'm not inferior to any warrior, but overall, my strength is still far too weak. It would be great if I could speed up my cultivation. Yi Tian closed his eyes, deep in thought, while in the distance, Zhang Bao excitedly waved his hand, shouting, Yi Tian! Yi Tian! Zhang Bao, standing some distance away, suddenly called Yi Tian's name. The chubby boy walked over, explaining his presence. I couldn't find you at the academy, so I guessed you might be secretly training out here. Zhang Bao raised his hand in surprise, then placed it on Yi Tian's chest and exclaimed, Wow, you're really solid. You must be an apprentice by now, right? Yi Tian replied, Zhang Bao immediately covered the sound with his hand, and, with a mysterious expression, said, Do you want to increase your strength faster? Yi Tian closed his eyes and smiled lightly, jokingly asking, Do you have a way? Zhang Bao clenched his fist, his face taking on a dangerous look, and revealed, Have you ever drunk the blood of an ominous beast? Yi Tian quickly shook his head, No. Zhang Bao pointed his thumb at himself. Admit it, no secrets, I've drunk the blood of an ominous beast. That's why I've advanced faster than you. Yi Tian widened his eyes in shock, thinking, does the blood of an ominous beast really have that kind of effect? He remembered the time he fought the ominous beast bare-handed, feeling regretful. Damn it, there was so much blood from the silver fox back then. What a waste. Seeing this, Zhang Bao raised his index finger and offered an idea. Now I have a way to get some ominous beast blood. Are you willing to try it? Yi Tian, of course, was excited and quickly asked, What's the way? Zhang Bao continued, Our Lin Hai base leader has built a wilderness area outside the city, specifically for the 5th Academy to organize the trial. The image of a bald man, an elderly man with white hair, and a girl with orange hair appeared in Yi Tian's mind. Then came the image of a box, with 3 human-shaped figures inside, filled with red liquid. That was the reward of the ominous beast blood trial. Yi Tian raised his hand to his chin, and turned to ask Zhang Bao, What level is the wilderness area? Zhang Bao replied, The rank is very low. The ominous beast has been completely dealt with, leaving only the offspring of the ominous beast, the powerful demon. Yi Tian hesitated for a moment before making a decision. Sounds pretty good. It's worth a trip. Zhang Bao was overjoyed. Exactly. Do you see my sincerity now? Join my team and let's fight for the ominous beast blood together. Yi Tian still hesitated. His expression changed, his face contorted in confusion. Join your team. Zhang Bao pointed his finger at Yi Tian with a reproachful expression. What's with that face? I told you this because I consider you a good friend. Yi Tian just smiled lightly and responded, Sorry. I promise I'll team up with you next time. Don't worry. Yi Tian turned away and waved goodbye to Zhang Bao. Rejected, Zhang Bao wiped his tears with his hand. I thought our relationship was really good, but I didn't expect you to be so indifferent. By the time Zhang Bao regained his senses, Yi Tian had already distanced himself quite a bit. Zhang Bao hurriedly chased after him, shouting, Hey, wait for me. Even if we're not teaming up, we're still good friends. Wait for me. Yi Tian began to think things over. If the team is too big, it'll be very complicated. Once my special abilities are exposed, it will definitely lead to fatal danger. It's better to go alone. I have to get the ominous beast blood to break through to the realm of a level warrior. It seemed he had already decided what his next course of action would be. 1 month later, at the 5th Academy, the name of the academy was slightly adjusted for consistency. The academy stood under a clear blue sky, and the scene shifted to the administrative office. Inside the room, a man dressed neatly, with his hands interlocked on the table. He spoke sternly, If you haven't received an official notification about the trial, then you don't need to register. Who leaked the news about the trial? Yi Tian stared at him, clearly and loudly reporting, Sir, I am already an apprentice and am eligible to register. The teacher scratched his face, looking very displeased. He stood up, grabbed a piece of paper, and said, I had originally planned to let you all live for a few more days. Then, in anger, he threw the paper straight at Yi Tian's face, shouting, "I never expected you to be so eager to seek death." Yi Tan was startled by the sudden throw and quickly closed his eyes. He bent down to pick up the paper that had fallen to the ground, then held it up and read the death contract. It was the lower rank certificate, with 3 main clauses listed at the top. 1. If a thief breaks in, their fans are lower class animals. 2. Similar to the first, but with an added second condition. 3. Similar to the first and second, but with a third condition to complete the clauses. The teacher sat back down in his chair, looking displeased, and lifted his cup of tea, adding, "That's right, if you want to participate in the trial, you must sign the death contract." Yi Tian looked at the piece of paper and understood. So that was it. The teacher took a sip of tea, not allowing Yi Tian to say anything more, and raised his voice, directing it at him. "If you're afraid of dying, then get out of here quickly. Don't waste my time." Yi Tian just stared back with a sharp, cold gaze, not saying another word. He walked through the academy, the crowd bustling with people, both men and women carrying their bags. Yi Tian held his head high, secretly smiling with joy in his heart. On the table, there was a piece of paper signed. The teacher stood looking out the window, speaking with a sarcastic tone. "Do you think this trial is actually prepared for you lowly ones?" He didn't forget to sneer. "Kiddo, you're so clueless." The scene shifted to Yi Tian's house. Yi Yu had just woken up, sitting dazed on the bed. Yi Yu rubbed her eyes, yawned, and then placed her feet on the floor. As she walked while still rubbing her eyes, she called out to him, "Isn't it time to get up?" Yi Yu adjusted her long, smooth black hair with her hands. She called out to her brother, but there was no response. Instead, what caught her eye was a table full of sumptuous food. She gasped and cheerfully exclaimed, "What's today that my brother's cooking?" Upon closer inspection, she noticed a small piece of paper tucked under the cup of milk. It had a note from her brother. "There's an event at the academy. I'll be back in 3 days." She wondered to herself, what event? 3 days? She held the note in her hand, her face showing a hint of worry, and she reassured herself. It should be nothing dangerous, right? The scene shifted to a neighborhood, the sky overcast, and the atmosphere felt lifeless. A black crow perched on a streetlight, but it wasn't just one crow. There were countless crows flying above the dark, bustling street. The scene resembled a battlefield, with collapsed buildings and desolation, only stones and 7 crows remaining. Suddenly, a group of people appeared, carrying various modern weapons, as they made their way toward the ruined area. A sign above them read the 5th Academy. It turned out that the group was made up of members from the academy, each holding a different weapon, bows, swords, and axes, while energetically chatting amongst themselves. Yi Tian, also carrying a backpack full of weapons, with a bow and arrows strapped to his back, spoke in surprise. "There are a lot of people." Zhang Bao, carrying a huge axe on his shoulder, laughed and replied, "Well, all the people from the 5th Academy are here." One of them grinned with interest. "The 5th Academy, huh?" He had black hair that reached his neck, with a red dot on his forehead, wearing a red shirt and holding a sword. His face showed a look of disdain. Those trash from the academy dared to participate in the trial? Standing beside him was a tall man dressed in all black, with golden hair tied back. The blond man said, "Young master, this time in the trial, not only can we hunt powerful demons, but we can also hunt humans. The more trash there is, the better, right?" As he spoke, he flashed a malicious grin. The person in the red shirt also joined in, looking down with a smug smile. To be hunted by the strong is the fate of the weak. From a distance, 2 shadowy figures whispered to each other. "Did you see that? That person's name is Mo Xiaobai, a genius from the 1st Academy." Zhang Bao spoke as he raised his thumb and pointed. "He's the most outstanding in the younger generation of the Mo family." Yi Tian turned his gaze toward them. "So he's from the Mo family. No wonder he's so arrogant." A sharp sword thrust into the ground, sending sparks flying. A young man dressed in tight purple clothes, with long black hair flowing over his shoulders, carrying a sword sheath and holding a sword, exuding a murderous aura, walked toward the Mo family and their bodyguard. Voices around them shouted threateningly, "Hey, stop right there. Who are you to dare bring a blade onto the 1st Academy's turf?" He stopped, holding the sword in his hand, and angrily shouted a challenge at Mo Xiaobai. "Come out here. I'm going to cut you down." Mo Xiaobai looked at him and taunted, "You were defeated by me before, and now you want to lose again. Hearing this, the young man gritted his teeth and laughed, signaling, "If you got the guts, come out here. Don't hide. Let's see who's afraid of whom." At that moment, standing where he was, the young man widened his eyes in curiosity, looking at them before asking, "Who is that guy?" Zhang Bao explained to him, "Lai Yunxing. He's the swordsmanship genius of the First Academy, but he was defeated by Mo Xiaobai once." Suddenly, a man spoke up with a sarcastic tone. As he spoke, he spat out a mouthful of saliva. "Tech, another poor fool who doesn't understand the times." Then he glanced up and turned toward him, shouting loudly, "You don't know the times." His voice was so loud that it caught the attention of the students around. He found it quite annoying and glared back at the man, silently cursing in his heart. How obnoxious! The one who doesn't know the times is you. With that thought, he turned and raised his hand, smiling brightly, cheering. "Lai Yunxing, go for it. Lai Yunxing, I support you." Lai Yunxing, upon seeing this, could only feel embarrassed and speechless. Who the heck is that? Doesn't he fear Mo Xiaobai will retaliate for cheering me on? This is so embarrassing. Meanwhile, he remained oblivious and kept cheering with all his might. Go for it. At that moment, the loudspeaker announcement blared. No fighting outside the wilderness area. Violators will have their trial qualifications revoked. Upon hearing this, he frowned, visibly displeased. He shouted, "Humph! Looks like you're lucky." Then he grabbed his sword, spun it in his hand, and quickly stabilized his grip. He glared at him, his brows still furrowed, and warned threateningly, "Once we're in the wilderness, you'll see what happens." After saying this, Lai Yunxing turned and walked away. Mo Xiaobai, hearing this, seemed to enjoy it even more, grinning widely and laughing madly. "Ha! What an idiot! Blabbering nonsense everywhere." After leaving, Lai Yunxing stopped in front of Yi Tian and said, "Hey, you there." He placed his hands on his hips and continued, daring to cheer for me. "You're looking like a real man. What's your name?" Yi Tian, upon hearing this, smiled with amusement and replied, glancing up at him, "Yi Tian, the Fifth Academy." Suddenly, his eyes widened in surprise. He looked at Lai Yunxing, and at that moment, a pink hue appeared behind him. Yi Tian calmly responded, "You have a nice name. Yi obscures the sun and defies tan." At the same time, the system displayed a human status window. Lai Yunxing, talent level 2nd class, knife talent medium. Seeing this, Yi Tian looked at him and thought to himself, "Knife talent, not bad." With that thought, he extended his hand with the intention of shaking hands. Then Yi Tian smiled at Lai Yunxing and encouraged, "Make sure to surpass Mo Xiaobai in the trial." Lai Yunxing was momentarily stunned upon hearing this, but quickly regained his composure and smiled. He reached out to shake Yi Tian's hand, not forgetting to offer his own encouragement. "Good luck too. Try to survive and come back." Yi Tian happily replied, "Mum." In that handshake with Lai Yunxing, Yi Tian copied his knife talent. The loudspeaker sounded again. "The trial begins. First Academy, please proceed." At the same time as the announcement, both men stood up and opened the 2 doors. As soon as the doors were opened, the members of the First Academy rushed out like a swarm of bees. Among them, 2 people were the fastest. They surpassed all the others. Those 2 quickly left the others behind and reached the first exit. One of them was Mo Xiaobai. He smiled confidently as he looked ahead. Seeing this, Zhang Bao excitedly said, "Wow, it's starting." He then ran off. He didn't forget to say, "I need to go find my team. See you inside, Yi Tian." Hearing this, Yi Tian just watched him leave and reminded him, "Be careful." At this moment, Lai Yunxing stretched his body, loosened his joints and said, "The First Academy goes first. Then our Second Academy, and you guys from the Fifth Academy will come last." That's the harsh reality of life. He held a lower rank certificate in his hand and looked at it. It contained a note about a thief and their fans being inferior creatures. The 2 were alike, but with a second clause added. 3 were similar to the first and second, but with a third clause for completeness. Afterward, Lai Yunxing quickly moved to his own team. "I have to go back to my team." "Good luck," he said. Yi Tian replied. He then stood there, watching his figure gradually disappear. Suddenly, an idea struck him. After thinking for a moment, he dashed toward a forest. He ran at his top speed, jumping over the tree trunks. He then landed in a spot. Yi Tan looked around, then glanced around thoughtfully, thinking, perhaps this place will be good enough to hide. He took off his backpack, holding it in his hands, and placed his sword on the ground. Then, he used his hand to open the system's interface. The status window appeared once again. Successfully copied the talent sword technique. Do you wish to merge? He thought for a moment. Of course the answer was yes. So he selected yes. After receiving his response, the system emitted a sound. Following that sound, veins began to appear on his body. He froze for a moment as his body underwent numerous changes. He gritted his teeth, enduring the pain. It hurts, but after going through the previous 2 copycat talents, I've gradually gotten used to it. Then he knelt down, struggling slightly. With this pain, I must become stronger. His eyes widened, his teeth clenched, and a beam of light shone from where he stood. He squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, and then quickly opened them again. After that, Yi Tian immediately entered a combat stance and tested the newly copied technique. He swung his sword, and wherever it went, the trees were sliced and fell apart. After his strike, a large number of trees collapsed and dust filled the air. The status window appeared. Human Yi Tian. Talent level. Mid-level, speed aptitude. Novice, knife talent. Mid-level. At this point, he had grown stronger than before. Once the process was finished, he picked up his backpack and turned back. At the place where his team was standing, an announcement came through the loudspeakers. The 4 academies have entered the training grounds. Next, the 5th Academy will enter the arena. After the announcement, the members of the 5th Academy simultaneously entered. At the trial site, what had once been a city now lay in ruin, with buildings and vehicles damaged everywhere. He walked along the road, his face slightly solemn, calm. Suddenly, a monster crawled toward where he was standing, and he could feel its movement with his ears. Behind him was an eastern dragon, preparing to launch a surprise attack. He didn't rush. Instead, he calmly drew his sword. He then glanced at it and turned to face it directly. The creature snarled in a threatening manner upon seeing him. He swiftly leaped into the air, facing it head-on. Seeing him jump in front of it, the dragon opened its mouth wide, revealing sharp teeth. He then struck down with a blow, effortlessly severing its head from its body. He looked at it briefly before gently landing on the ground. The head and body fell in separate places, and it died without even having a chance to blink. Yi Tian reached inside it and pulled out a golden orb. He stored it in his backpack. As he did so, he murmured, "The powerful demon seems weaker than I thought. But according to the rules of the trial, the more powerful demons you hunt, the higher your rank will be. I wonder how many points are needed for rank 1. Trial rewards. Rank 1 to 13 portions of mid-level ominous beast blood, 100,000 yuan. Rank 2 to 11 portions of low-level ominous beast blood, 100,000 yuan. Rank 3 to 13 portions of low-level ominous beast blood, 50,000 yuan. Rank 4 to rank 10 to 11 portions of low-level ominous beast blood. After packing up, he put his backpack on again and continued walking, sighing. The road is long and endless. With that, he hopped off to another place to hunt more powerful demons. No matter how many there were, he needed to kill as many powerful demons as possible first. Elsewhere, he was flying and gliding through different areas in search of powerful demons. Suddenly, Yi Tian noticed something and stopped, looking down below where an academy member was surrounded by demonic beasts. The person was desperately shouting, "Don't come here!" He stared and then realized it was him. Zhang Bao, at this moment, was helpless, his face pale, his whole body trembling as he watched the demonic beasts getting closer. He desperately shouted, "I don't want to die yet. I haven't even gotten married." One of the demonic beasts seemed to lose its composure. It charged straight at him. Seeing this, Zhang Bao threw his weapon aside and bolted, running as fast as he could. Yi Tian immediately realized something was wrong. Thinking quickly, he reached for his bow, drew an arrow, and aimed. The arrow shot forward like a gust of wind toward the beast. It didn't have time to react and could only stare wide-eyed as the arrow sped toward it. The arrow pierced straight through the demonic beast's body. It collapsed to the ground, blood pouring from the wound. Zhang Bao, standing to the side, was pale with fear. He couldn't even understand what was happening. Suddenly, he rushed quickly to where you were standing, blocking your path from the demonic beasts ahead. Then he turned around and glanced at you, asking, "Can you give me all of these accumulated points?" You were stunned when you saw him. Yi Tian. Then, concerned for your friend, you shouted, "Yi Tian, run quickly. You're no match for Tooth Wolf." Upon hearing this, Yi Tian just smirked, releasing a surge of red energy, his innate speed kicking in, and he charged toward the Tooth Wolves. He was so fast that it was impossible to see with the naked eye. They didn't even have time to react before he was already in the middle of them. It took them a few seconds to raise their claws, baring their fangs, and charging toward him to attack. Seeing this, he drew the sword from his hip, unsheathing it, while you focused intently, knife talent, slash. He struck out several times, the blade effortlessly cutting the demonic beasts into pieces. Watching from outside, your eyes widened in astonishment, unable to believe what you were seeing. So powerful. You stood frozen, watching him in the midst of the fallen Tooth Wolf corpses, hearing a sharp sound as the bloody tip of the knife left the throat of a wild wolf, its sharp, fang-filled mouth wide open, and its eyes glaring, motionless, seemingly already dead. A pale, slender hand reached forward, unhesitatingly inserting itself into the wolf's mouth, gripping a fang still stained with blood, along with the nerves attached to it. Yi Tian, dressed in the academy uniform, sat next to the wolf's carcass, holding a knife in one hand, the same knife that had just been plunged into the wolf. Yi Tian turned toward Zhang Bao, who was standing, and said, "I'm going to take the wolf's teeth. Is that all right with you?" Zhang Bao quickly declined, stammering, No, it's fine. They're all yours." With a rustling sound, the backpack was strapped on. In the midst of a ruined city and debris, with dilapidated buildings behind him, Yi Tian stood on the deserted road, a shadow cast over his large backpack. He looked toward his dejected friend, who was sitting on the side of the road, and asked, "Are you going to keep fighting, or is that it?" Zhang Bao plopped down on the road, his hands resting on his knees, looking utterly hopeless, and replied, "No, I'm done." Zhang Bao appeared deeply disappointed, his furrowed brow and despondent gaze evident in his eyes. He said, "This trial has been too dangerous. Just surviving it has been a stroke of luck. My teammates are all seriously injured, and I have to get them out of here quickly. At the very least, I need to save their lives." Zhang Bao continued, and in his mind, images of his fallen comrades surfaced, some slumped against walls, others lying motionless in the middle of the road, their bodies scattered, with pools of blood forming around them. Yi Tian listened, feeling helpless. He sighed, closed his eyes, and said, "It seems like there's no other choice." He took a step forward without any regret. At that moment, Zhang Bao stood up and shouted toward him, "Wait, Yi Tian." His face looked extremely grim, and there was a clear expression of concern. He reminded him, "Deep in the wilderness, there's a fake, fierce beast. You must be careful." Yi Tian's eyes shifted completely after hearing Zhang Bao's words, the corners of his eyes darkening. He asked in return, "Fake, fierce beast?" Among the 3 danger levels of strange beasts, for instance, taking the appearance of a wolf as an example, an ominous beast looks like an ordinary wolf. Next, there's the fake, fierce beast that Zhang Bao just mentioned, which is much larger in size compared to the ominous beast, and especially, it has a pair of horns on its head. Finally, the most powerful and largest is the powerful demon, which resembles an ordinary wolf, but is far bigger and doesn't walk on 4 legs. This creature moves on its hind limbs. Seeing Yi Tian stop, Zhang Bao continued, "I heard that people from the First Academy are surrounding a spotted snake over 10 meters long. It's said to have reached the level of a fake, fierce beast, and it's worth 500 points. Yi Tian's gaze became serious. He gave a decisive reply. 500 points. At this moment, upon hearing that, Yi Tian's face broke into a terrifying smile, revealing all 4 of its sharp fangs. His eyes turned blood red as he looked at Zhang Bao, with a gleam of amusement, and said, 500 points. He hurriedly rushed to Zhang Bao's side, grabbing him by the collar. "Tell me where it is," he demanded urgently. Zhang Bao didn't bother hiding anything from him, lifting his hand to point in a direction. "It's currently to the southeast," Zhang Bao replied. In an instant, a surge of dark pink magical energy appeared around the ruins where the 2 of them stood, swirling in the air. With a sharp sound, dust was blown up from nowhere, and alongside it, a shadow of someone flew past. Upon hearing his answer, Yi Tan immediately used the magical energy to soar into the sky, leaving behind a broken protective shield. As he moved, a fierce determination flickered in Yi Tan's eyes, his gaze turning bloodshot, reflecting his strong will. Yi Tan stubbornly muttered, 500 points. If I have it, I can definitely secure first place in this trial. Zhang Bao watched him leave, sending a word of encouragement to his friend. Be careful. The sky was no longer clear. Dark clouds rolled in, covering everything, and creating a very eerie atmosphere. Beneath the dark clouds was a city engulfed in debris, and suddenly, the pink magical energy appeared, weaving its way into the city. The sound of shoes pounding against the pavement roared through the air, accompanying that magical energy. The sound was from Yi Tian, who was running desperately down the street, surrounded by a powerful flow of magical energy. But ahead of him lay a broken bridge. As if sensing something, Yi Tian's fiery red eyes suddenly paused, and with a whoosh, the sole of his shoe finally came to a stop. Yi Tian halted, and beneath the purple sky, an eerie, chilling atmosphere emerged. Before him now lay a series of corpses scattered across the blood-stained ground, along with discarded weapons. He noticed the lifeless bodies, uncertain of their fate, and upon closer inspection, he realized they were wearing the uniform of the First Academy. The dead were dressed in the Academy's proud red uniform. Suddenly, with a loud boom, a massive flame erupted in the sky, as if it sought to blow everything away. The fire illuminated the entire sky for a brief moment, and Yi Tian's hair was blown backward by the gust. He looked toward the source of the explosion, calling out briefly in the distance. Yi Tian quickly tapped into his magical power, and rushed toward the epicenter of the explosion. It didn't take long for him to reach his destination. Yi Tian gauged the distance, and leaped onto a tall building. After landing, Yi Tian kneeled down, peering down from the shattered rooftop. His red eyes scanned the scene and quickly flashed with a peculiar light. Is that the fake, fierce beast? Yi Tian silently wondered, and it seemed that it was indeed the case, for down below was a strange beast, one with a power and appearance far more impressive than he had imagined. A blazing red flame erupted from its shoulder, burning brightly. The upper body of the creature appeared like a demon, with 2 arms and hands full of sharp claws, its face equally cruel, resembling that of a devil. Its lower body was a long serpentine tail, covered in scales like a snake's skin. The strange beast seemed to herald a catastrophe amidst the raging flames. It swung its limbs, grabbing the tiny humans below, tossing them around in all directions. Some people were flying wildly through the air, while others, still determined, held their weapons and tried to get close to kill it. A man appeared below, a small dot on his forehead, shouting orders. Charge forward. We must kill this beast. 500 points must belong to Mo Xiaobai. It turned out that the man's name was Mo Xiaobai. As soon as he finished speaking, those in red uniforms from the First Academy rushed forward to continue the fight. With a sharp clang, the blade of a student's sword struck the scales of the fake fierce beast. The sharp blade didn't even scratch the thick skin, let alone pierce through it. At this moment, another person stepped in to assist. This individual, with golden hair slicked back, appeared elderly, yet contrary to his age, he launched a powerful attack on the monster. Turning back quickly, he hastily reported, "Young master, the fake fierce beast's stamina is starting to weaken. This is the perfect opportunity to kill it." Despite saying that, looking at the terrifying expression on its face, still full of energy, with its mouth wide open revealing sharp fangs and the howl echoing, it didn't seem weak in the slightest. The heel of a shoe appeared, followed by the sound of a clicking noise. Around the shoe, a source of magical power enveloped it. Mo Xiaobai eagerly shouted, "All right, leave the rest to me." In Mo Xiaobai's hand was a sharp sword. He leaped into the air, with magical energy charging towards the fake fierce beast, his face filled with confidence, a smile spreading across his face. The giant fake fierce beast, with blazing red flames on its shoulder, opened its mouth, looking very startled. Mo Xiaobai successfully closed the distance, rushing toward it through the smoke-filled battlefield. His foot landed on the body of the fake fierce beast, and the sword was quickly driven down. The sharp blade pierced through the fake fierce beast's skin, and thick purple liquid sprayed out. Mo Xiaobai grinned triumphantly, his hand tightly gripping the sword hilt, facing the fake fierce beast. There was no longer any doubt. The sword had truly pierced its body. That thick purple liquid must be its blood. The monster was struck right on the top of its head. Mo Xiaobai stood on its head, driving the sword through its forehead. It let out a heart-wrenching scream. At this moment, Mo Xiaobai's mind flashed with the thought, "I've done it." A proud smile lingered on his lips. Suddenly, the fake fierce beast twitched its head, quickly shaking off the annoying person clinging to it. Mo Xiaobai, caught off guard, was tossed aside and let out a scream. The force of the toss was no joke. From a distance, a shockwave seemed to erupt, and smoke and dust quickly filled the air. Mo Xiaobai was thrown into a wall, creating a large hole. He sat up to regain his composure, and gradually, the smoke and dust began to disperse. Finally, his face was full of pride and arrogance as he grinned and announced, "The 500 points have been claimed by me." On the desolate street below, the massive fake fierce beast, a giant serpent, had collapsed, lying there in agony. "Is it dead?" A voice of doubt rang out from the rooftop of a tall building engulfed in flames. The person clenched his fist, frustrated, thinking, "What a pity, I arrived just a step too late." The person seething with anger was Yi Tian, who had been observing all this time. He frowned, gritted his teeth, his eyes burning with envy. Emerging from the wreckage, Mo Xiaobai walked confidently down the road, flanked by piles of ruin. With a click, the heel of his shoe came to a stop. The remaining survivors from the first academy looked at him, and one of them lowered his head and said, "Congratulations, young master, on winning 500 points." Mo Xiaobai's triumphant laughter echoed from the corner of his mouth, his satisfied grin never fading. He was overjoyed, clenching his fist into a tight ball, and loudly announced his exciting news. "The first place in the trial is definitely mine, Mo Xiaobai." Suddenly, at this moment, the fake fierce beast on one side moved. The blazing red flame seemed to be its hair, which was slowly reigniting and then exploding. Its dazzling gaze opened fiercely once more, and the flame turned into a brilliant purple. A roar erupted, and the fake fierce beast was still not fully dealt with. Not only that, it continued to wake up, howling in great anger, its body turning a dazzling purple, ready to attack those who had trampled it. The people in the academy noticed and immediately shouted, "Ah, it's still not dead." In an instant, the force from its punch sent several of them flying through the air. Those who noticed the instability quickly tried to attack, aiming to suppress it. Strong gusts of wind began to rise, and Mo Xiaobai, witnessing the situation, was furious. He gritted his teeth in discomfort, thinking it was a bloodburst. A massive dark shadow swept across the sky with a few whooshing sounds. It was the fake fierce beast flying away, leaving the ruined city behind. Mo Xiaobai couldn't afford to lose this prize. He furrowed his brows and shouted, "It's not a fake fierce beast. It's an actual fierce beast." The people in the academy, hearing this, became confused and began to ask each other, "An ominous beast. Should we chase it?" "Of course we should chase it. It's worth 1,000 accumulation points." Mo Xiaobai, somewhat frustrated and angry, yelled out. This successfully stirred them into action. A series of students appeared in Mo Xiaobai's mind, as he said, 1,000 points. Seeing the accumulated points rise, they no longer cared about anything else, and rushed towards the fake fierce beast, abandoning the crumbling path. They hurried, urging each other to move faster, not letting anyone else get there first. Mo Xiaobai did not hesitate either and followed suit. His face grew serious as he thought, "This ominous beast has already been weakened by my attack. I cannot let anyone else see it now, or else all my effort will be wasted." The ruined rooftop was still surrounded by flames. Yi Tan stood up after hearing the full notification. He silently summoned his magical power, muttering to himself, "I didn't expect it to be an ominous beast worth 1,000 points." At that moment, Yi Tan's eyes gleamed with a deadly greedy look. He smiled a frightening smile and spoke aloud to the others, "Sorry, but you're not as fast as me." Each of his pale fingers pressed against the cement floor, and around them, a pink magical energy enveloped. Yi Tan placed his hand down and contemplated as the skilled maximum power appeared in his mind. No sooner had he finished thinking, Yi Tan dropped into a prepared stance. He lowered his body's center of gravity, and in an instant, a surge of powerful magical energy surrounded him, erupting. Yi Tan widened his eyes and commanded, his gaze fierce with intensity. Boom! Dust flew everywhere, and debris rained down onto the ground. From the rooftop, the light from his magical power burst forth, and with it, Yi Tian, using maximum power, charged forward, chasing after the fake fierce beast. Once again, the enormous magical source soared into another desolate, gloomy city, illuminating the entire area. Suddenly, from amidst the rubble, the black horn wrapped in magical energy appeared. Among the broken bricks, the fake fierce beast lay sprawled on the ground beneath the sky. The only thing still glowing on it was the faint purple magical energy flickering. Yi Tian had arrived and was soaring through the air. Boom! The pressure from his landing caused a tremor. Yi Tian braced himself with his hand to avoid falling, and his cloak fluttered in the wind behind him. Yi Tian walked down the road, and a stream of purple liquid appeared along the way. He scanned the surroundings and muttered to himself, "Good, the Top Academy's people haven't arrived yet." Then he knelt down, reaching out to touch the liquid, speculating that it was slime secreted by the beast. His finger pressed gently into the liquid, scraping some of it onto his hand. Yi Tian brought the liquid to his nose and sniffed, frowning as he speculated, "Hiding here, huh?" In front of him stood a shopping mall, now reduced to a pile of debris, with a large sign still visible on the facade. Yi Tian sensed the magical energy radiating from that area, and the corners of his mouth curled up. His eyes gleamed with a fiery red light as he looked toward the shopping mall. "Looks like 1,000 points are about to be mine." At this moment, in a corner of the ruined, desolate city, a faint purple smoke rose from the dark, exuding a foul odor. Yi Tian remarked, "The stench of the spotted snake is overwhelming." He cautiously stepped forward, his face stern. It must be somewhere nearby. Suddenly, Yi Tian froze, his eyes wide with surprise. A massive snake was wriggling upright toward a sharp stone outcrop that was secreting a thick white substance. Around it, an eerie purple smoke was wafting. Yi Tian looked up at the strange beast, recoiling in shock, left only to silently observe. At that moment, the white substance continued to drip from the sharp stone. The spotted snake opened its mouth wide, revealing sharp teeth and a long tongue, drinking the white liquid as it flowed down from the stone. Yi Tian, watching the creature drink from its wide-open maw, couldn't help but feel curious. What is it drinking? Yi Tian's expression darkened, his brows furrowing. He was sure it wasn't just ordinary water. With that, Yi Tian drew his sword. Gripping the shiny blade with both hands, he smiled smugly, locking his gaze on the monstrous creature. He sighed, "Let's grab 1,000 points first, and worry about the rest later." With that, Yi Tian stomped hard on the ground, causing the earth beneath him to crack, then used the momentum to launch his body upward. Sword in hand, he charged straight toward the colossal spotted snake, his eyes glowing with a red, eerie light. The monster's face stared at Yi Tian, grinning with its sharp, iron teeth. It charged straight at Yi Tian with the speed of a missile, leaving him stunned. Too fast, his eyes widened in shock as he watched the strange beast charging toward him at a breakneck speed. As it neared Yi Tian, it swung a devastating punch down at him, sending him flying and causing his sword to slip from his hand and fly off. Yi Tian was knocked away by the gigantic spotted snake, tumbling several dozen meters. In that moment, Yi Tian swiftly drew his bow with one hand and grabbed his arrows with the other. As he was still soaring through the air, a mystical blue smoke enveloped him, and his eyes turned red. He squinted one eye to aim an arrow at the beast. The arrows flew rapidly towards the spotted snake. The spotted snake let out a painful scream, revealing its teeth and long, twisted tongue. Two of Yi Tian's arrows had struck it directly in the eyes. Yi Tian crashed to the ground, his hands and feet catching him as he landed. His bow and arrows fell before him, and the sword that had been knocked away was spinning in the air and descending. With quick reflexes, Yi Tian grabbed his sword. Once he had it in his grip, he charged toward the enormous monster. Blinded, the spotted snake flailed wildly, unable to see. Yi Tian flew toward it, and with one powerful strike, his sword pierced the creature, causing it to howl in agony and despair. At this moment, Yi Tian stood up, using all his strength to drive the sword deep into the body of the strange beast. Holding the sword with both hands, he strained so hard that both arms trembled. Yi Tian frowned, opened his mouth wide, and screamed. A long breath, he tensed his body, causing both his facial muscles and neck to bulge. As he drove the sword deeper into it, He ran it along the creature's body, causing excruciating pain that made it roar in agony. Wherever his sword struck, blood gushed out like a river. By then, the blade had been stained red with the blood of the spotted snake. The giant spotted snake cried out in agony, for its entire body had been cleaved apart, and blood poured out, turning the sky a deep purple. With his eyes bloodshot, Yi Tian, sword in hand, was charging down. The ominous beast, meanwhile, was slowly collapsing. Yi Tian stood beside it, watching as the ominous beast gradually sank to the ground. He then exhaled sharply, and with relief, said, "The ominous beast is indeed formidable. If it weren't for Mo Xiaobai and the others weakening it first, I would never have had a chance to defeat it." He then took a few steps forward and looked up at the rocky outcrop where the strange beast had drunk from earlier. It was still leaking a white liquid. He wondered, what exactly is this? Finishing his thought, he pulled a glass vial from his pouch and said, "Never mind. The ominous beast must have more instinctive wisdom than I do, so it should know the difference between good and bad. This must be some kind of treasure." With that, Yi Tian positioned the glass vial beneath the leaking white fluid to collect the substance the strange beast had drunk earlier. He said, "Focus first, then we'll think about the rest." After that, Yi Tian took the sword and thrust it into the body of the ominous beast, causing blood to splatter everywhere. The strange beast lay there. Yi Tian drove the sword into its temple, then dug out its eye, holding it in his hand. The eye was bloodshot, covered in dark purple blood. He said, "The ominous beast's eyeball is worth 1,000 points." At this point, having already removed the 2 eyeballs of the spotted snake and placed them next to his own, he continued to sit beside the beast's heart, holding the sword and making a cut. Then, he spoke again. The essence of the ominous beast was incredibly precious. From the wound on the creature's heart, green blood gushed out. He quickly took a glass vial to collect it. The other side of the vial was collecting the strange white fluid as well. At this moment, Yi Tian approached, holding the vial meant for the white fluid, smiling slightly. With one hand, he held up the vial to examine it, while the other hand rested on his hip. He wondered, "Oh, it's already dripping this much?" Then, he turned his gaze to the sharp object that was releasing the fluid. Though he didn't know exactly what it was, Yi Tian pulled out his sword and moved towards it, not willing to leave it for Mo Xiaobai. With one swift strike, he cut the object in half, and one part of it fell to the ground. Yi Tian went to drop the eyeballs and tidy up everything into his backpack. He said, "This much should be enough to secure first place in the trial." His eyes glanced to the side as he smirked. It's time to leave. A moment later, Mo Xiaobai's group arrived, but all they found was the lifeless body of the ominous beast lying pitifully on the ground. His men reported, "The ominous beast's eyes have been gouged out, and its essence has been drained." One of them turned to Mo Xiaobai and shouted, "All that's left is the corpse. Young master, what should we do now?" Mo Xiaobai clenched his fists so tightly that veins bulged from his hands. He furiously asked, "Who did this? Who was it?" His face twisted in a fierce snarl, his eyes wide with rage, his veins protruding from his skin. He roared in fury, "Dare to steal 1,000 points from me? I will definitely kill you." The scene shifted to the city, where the rain poured down in torrents, soaking everything in sight. Yi Tian was high above, observing from a distance. The rain soaked into his clothes, drenching him completely. He seemed surprised when he saw Mo Xiaobai's men, his eyes widening in recognition as he murmured, "It's them." Meanwhile, in the chaos and ruins of the city, at the location where the battle between Yi Tian and the ominous beast had just taken place, Mo Xiaobai's group was in disarray. "Young master, perhaps the thief who stole your points has already escaped," a tall man in a black suit, walking behind Mo Xiaobai, asked. "What should we do next?" As he walked through the rain, Mo Xiaobai coldly replied, "Search everyone we come across. We must find that thief." With his eyes narrowed into sharp slits and an expression twisted with anger, veins standing out on his face, he gritted his teeth and said, "This matter cannot end so easily." Yi Tian stood above, observing, and could clearly hear everyone chanting the command in unison. Seeing the situation growing tense, he glanced in that direction, his hand gripping a strap of his bag, and muttered to himself, "Looks like I have to hide." At that moment, bolts of purple lightning crackled around Yi Tian. He shot up into the air, leaving the building behind as he flew off. Surrounding him, were the mystical arcs of purple lightning. With swift legs, he began descending from the height. Next, he spread his arms and legs wide to prepare for landing. After successfully landing in the ruins of the building in a crouched position, Yi Tian pushed off again, jumping to another location. He muttered to himself, "You can't hide in one spot for your whole life." He continued leaping from one place to another, his eyes shining brightly, his hair blowing in the wind. He thought, 3 days from now, when the trial ends, and they tally the scores, everyone will know that I'm the one who killed the ominous beast. With his legs moving like lightning in the rain, as fast as a gust of wind, he kept thinking, I need to use this time to focus on cultivating and quickly increase my strength. At this moment, Yi Tian found an ideal spot, standing in the rain and observing his surroundings. He said, "This place is quite secluded." Then, he placed his backpack inside the hiding spot and sat down cross-legged, holding a glass vial in his hand. Yi Tian wondered, I wonder how much strength this ominous beast blood will give me. After that, he tilted his head back, holding the vial containing the ominous beast blood, and drank it. After the blood flowed into his body, Yi Tian cried silently due to its horrible taste. If he had some snacks, it wouldn't have been so difficult to drink. Looking at the glass bottle, Yi Tian thought to himself, well, it's for the ability to protect my sister and become stronger. Bottoms up. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Tian lifted the bottle and downed it in one gulp without hesitation. Meanwhile, Yi Tian's younger sister suddenly sneezed. Yi Yu rubbed her nose and wondered, who's talking about me? Sitting in class, resting her chin on her hand and staring out the window, she silently thought, brother, is everything okay on your side? At this moment, on Yi Tian's side, his hands were positioned facing each other, creating a magical vortex of green light. His eyes were wide open, revealing pupils that had turned pink. Sitting cross-legged, his hands rested on his thighs, surrounded by glowing green lights. He was so surprised that he asked himself, goodness, the speed of my cultivation just increased almost 4 times. Yi Tian widened his eyes and realized, no wonder Chen Dong and the others cultivate so quickly. It turns out, apart from their innate talent, they also rely on external substances to help. Looking at the backpack filled with items he had gathered after the battle with the ominous beast, Spotted Snake, he made up his mind. I'm determined. In the next 2.5 days, I must focus on cultivating. Time passed quickly, and 3 days later, at the point tallying location, people from all directions gathered in crowds. Everyone lined up neatly, one by one, listening to the girl with purple hair announce, Zhang He, 10 points, Bao Lei, 23 points, Su Hai, 0 points. At this moment, a green briefcase was placed on the table. The boy with long hair smiled and looked at the girl with purple hair, one hand resting on his hip, the other reaching out. Excuse me, can you help me calculate? He asked. Opening the briefcase, inside were the items he had collected from the ominous beasts. The girl with purple hair glanced into the briefcase, made her calculations, then announced, Lai Young-sing, 190 points. Those around them couldn't help but murmur in awe. So impressive. At that moment, Mo Xiaobai, along with a tall man in a suit, approached. He spoke in a condescending tone. It's only 195 points. What's so surprising about that? Mo Xiaobai walked up to Lai Young-sing, sneering with contempt. Lai Young-sing, I didn't expect you to have such little skill. His face twisted into a lecherous grin, full of malice, and he continued, Do you really think your measly score is enough to challenge me? Upon hearing these words, Lai Young-sing furrowed his brows in anger and called out his name, Mo Xiaobai. At this moment, the person named Mo Xiaobai walked up to the table, holding a pouch, and poured the things he had collected in front of the purple-haired girl. He smiled smugly and said, Add it up for me. There was so much that it even surprised the purple-haired girl. She widened her eyes, staring blankly at the pile in front of her. After calculating for a moment, she announced, Mo Xiaobai, 427 points. The people around the table all gasped in astonishment. One person exclaimed, 427. Damn it, that's impressive. No wonder it's Mo Xiaobai. Another quickly added, the gap is too big, I only have 30 points. At this moment, Lai Young-sing was furious. He pointed at Mo Xiaobai and said, You shameless bastard, you must have stolen someone else's points. Mo Xiaobai glanced at him, then innocently extended his hand and asked with a smile, "Haha, I stole based on my own ability. What's wrong with that?" Hearing his shameless question made La Yun-Sing absolutely enraged. He clenched his teeth and muttered, "This bastard." Soon, several girls came over to congratulate him, saying, "With 427 points, you're definitely first place." His expression changed immediately. His sharp eyes glinted as he looked at them and said, "No, first place will probably be over 1,000 points." The girls around her immediately questioned, 1,000 points? How is that possible? The tall man in the black suit approached the girl with purple hair sitting down. He then asked, "All the surviving students have come out, right?" The girl with purple hair tucked her hair behind her ear, glanced at him, and replied, "Yes. If they haven't come out by now, they're probably all dead." Upon hearing this, the man smirked and thought to himself, "In that case, the first place must be Mo Xiaobai." Suddenly, the sound of footsteps approaching drew everyone's attention. They turned to look toward the figure walking over and exclaimed, "Ha, another person is coming out." The bald man in the suit, who had been enjoying himself, immediately turned to ask something upon hearing that. With a large backpack slung over his back and a long sword in hand, his steps were slow and deliberate. His face half darkened as he looked ahead. It was none other than Yi Tian. The eyeballs of the monster appeared before everyone's eyes, and the girl with purple hair noticed, "Oh, those are the monster's eyeballs." Yi Tian, his face cold, asked the teacher in front of him, "Exactly. So my total score is—" The clear blue sky echoed with the teacher's voice, "Yes, your score is 1163 points. Congratulations, you have taken first place in this year's practical exam." The teacher placed the tray with 3 vials of a fierce beast blood in front of him. "Your reward is 3 vials of a fierce beast blood and 100,000 yuan in cash." He was staring at it, not saying anything. Zhang Bao excitedly shouted, "Well done, Yi Tian." La Yun-Sing raised his hand, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. How could that kid? Mo Xiaobai looked at him and smiled savagely. He's figured it out. The thief has finally shown himself. Ha! An idiot from that lowly 5th Academy. He continued staring ahead and ordered the man behind him, "Go check his background and everything about him for me." The subordinate behind him obediently replied, "Yes." Zhang Bao was overjoyed. He raised one finger and said, "Yi Tan has truly proven to them that our 5th Academy has finally won first place in the practical exam." The 3 girls nearby responded to his words. The girl in the middle eagerly said, "Yeah, I never expected this." "How did he do it?" The teacher in the suit spoke up, "That little brat." Zhang Bao noticed the teacher's displeased expression. He asked, "Teacher, why you look unhappy? Didn't Yi Tan bring glory to the 5th Academy?" The teacher's face was expressionless, only reminding Zhang Bao, "That kid has already offended and provoked the powerful Mo family. I'm afraid you'll be surprised when you have to go pick up your friend's corpse soon." Zhang Bao pondered Yi Tian. After a while on the practical competition leaderboard, the top 3 were as follows. Yi Tian from the 5th Academy ranked first with a total score of 1165. The prize he received was 100,000 yuan and 3 bottles of mid-level fierce beast blood. Ranked second was Mo Xiaobai from the 1st Academy, with a reward of 100,000 yuan and 1 bottle of mid-level fierce beast blood. Finally, in third place was La Yun-Sing from the 2nd Academy, with 295 points, receiving 50,000 yuan and 3 bottles of low-level fierce beast blood. A shiny camera appeared. Behind the camera, someone spoke. "Look here, smile." All 3 smiled. On the podium stood Yi Tian, Mo Xiaobai, and La Yun-Sing. Someone loudly announced, "The practical competition has officially ended. Congratulations to the top 3 participants for receiving their prizes." Mo Xiaobai and Yi Tian exchanged glances. Mo Xiaobai mocked, "You must have a lot of courage to dare to steal what belongs to me." Yi Tian threw a menacing glare at Mo Xiaobai. "I wanted to say the same thing to you." La Yun-Sing also joined the conversation. "Young Master Mo, have you really forgotten what you said to me before?" He shot a glance at La Yun-Sing. "I was talking to you. What did I say?" La Yun-Sing was not shy to remind him. "Just like you, Yi Dim also stole points using his own methods. Is there an issue with that?" He laughed loudly. "Ha ha, his methods, huh? He was so angry that veins popped up on his face. So between me and him, who do you think is stronger? Mo Xiaobai took a step forward, challenging. We'll have to fight to find out, right? Yi Tian's eyes were bloodshot and frightening as he looked down at him, without hesitation or fear, agreeing to the challenge. If young Master Mo has the time, I'd be more than happy to fulfill your request. He just smiled with interest, and around them, there was an aura of opposing green and red energy. His eyes rolled back. How interesting. Yi Tian also looked at him seriously, thinking to himself that once targeted by someone like him, there was no way to escape. The only way out was to become strong enough so that he wouldn't be challenged again. A moment later, the scene shifted as the sky turned dark. Tall buildings stood in a row, one after another. Yi Tian opened the door, having already taken off his shoes. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him, calling out, "Yi Yu, I'm back." Yi Yu ran over quickly and hugged him tightly. Big brother. He looked at her with a tender gaze, and she tilted her head up, wide-eyed, asking, "Why did you take so long? Where did you go?" She anxiously looked around him, checking him over. "Are you hurt? Don't move. Let me take a look." He scratched his head. "Of course not. I'm fine. Totally fine." He happily grabbed the bag from his shoulder. "I brought you some gifts." She was extremely excited at that moment. "Oh, what is this?" On the ground were money, 3 bottles of mid-level fierce beast blood he had just received, and several other items. She sighed. "Oh my God, this is a lot of money." She picked up the stack of money and looked at it. "Finally, you have enough money to get married." His brother immediately rebutted. "What are you talking about? This money is for you, to cover your tuition and living expenses." She happily responded. "Really? Does that mean we can finally eat meat every day from now on?" She picked up a bottle of blue liquid, looked at it curiously. "Huh. What is this?" He held up a book in his hand. "I don't know either, so I bought this treasure illustration book." He opened it and flipped through the pages. She too curiously leaned in to take a look. "Treasure illustration book. I want to see it too." A moment later, he widened his eyes, suddenly realizing something. "Wait a minute, this is it." Then he muttered to himself, "Terra Core Miracle Medicine." The book displayed a few lines of text. Treasure name: Terra Core Miracle Medicine. Effect of the treasure: a liquid substance formed from Terra vein stone after absorbing the primordial air of heaven and earth for hundreds of years. It can help enhance cultivation talent when absorbed, but is only effective for mid-level talent or below. Additionally, there is a small chance of obtaining terramordial stone. The stone that enhances the cultivation talent of those of higher rank or lower exists near the production site of the Terra Core elixir. For more information, please refer to the terramordial stone section. He recalled the image of the serpent from the past. That serpent could have become a monster by using this Terra Core elixir. He had never thought that something so easily obtainable could be such a miraculous item. She raised the vial of green liquid and said, "Here, you should pay attention to it." Then she held the vial up and looked at him, continuing, "Because this can enhance your strength, it will definitely be useful for you." He glanced back slightly, then lowered his head and confirmed, "No, I don't need it anymore." His gaze became more frightening and dangerous, as he told his sister, "Instead, I will make you stronger. Drink it, Yi Yu." Yi Yu was taken aback, exclaiming, "Ah me." Outside, the sky gradually darkened. Houses of varying heights were connected in some building. Yi Yu's voice rang out, "Me, drink it?" She looked at the vial, hesitating. But she hadn't even awakened her power yet. She kept staring at the vial, wondering if it would be a waste. Above her head, the information panel appeared. Name: Yi Yu. Cultivation talent: Poor. Ice talent: Novice. Unawakened. The system display is now clearer, showing Yi Yu's name: a poor cultivation talent, ice talent, and a novice who has yet to awaken. It is further revealed that the lowest levels of cultivation talent are weak, followed by poor, novice, medium, and advanced levels. He raised his hand to his chin, lost in thought. My sister's cultivation talent is only poor. If she drinks this earth core liquid, it will definitely improve, but I don't know by how much. Then, she excitedly clapped her hands together, coming up with a bold idea. "Oh, right, we could sell it. With something as amazing as this, we could definitely get a lot of money." He stood up, pacing back and forth while reading a book. As he read, he spoke aloud. The book says that the place where the liquid was formed had earth energy spiritual stones, but I destroyed them already. When the time comes, the buyer wanting to purchase earth energy spiritual stones from me will certainly not believe it. In the end, she sat on the ground, raising a finger. He snapped his fingers, then turned to look at her, smiling as he said, "It will bring danger and disaster." He looked at her sitting on the ground, holding the bottle of liquid in her hand, his voice full of regret. "Why did I destroy it? What a pity." Then he reached for the handle of the glass jar. "If you don't drink," he took it from her hands and continued the unfinished sentence, "it would be even more regrettable." She gasped, staring at the glass jar. Then he placed his hand over her mouth and ordered, "Open your mouth." He brought the glass jar close to her mouth. She waved her hands vigorously, flailing. "Ah, big brother, are you trying to kill your cute little sister?" A moment later, the glass jar was empty, lying on the floor. He gently asked, "How does it taste?" He placed his hand on her shoulder and observed. She was slightly bowed, coughing 3 times, unable to speak. After a while, she unexpectedly sensed something unusual. "It feels warm, really refreshing." His eyes grew cold, and he silently wondered, what's going on? Her cultivation talent is still poor. Could it be that what the book said was false? The status frame remained unchanged, not shifting at all. Name: Yi Yu. Cultivation talent: poor. Ice talent: novice, still unawakened. She sat on the chair, rubbing her eyes. "Big brother, I'm sleepy. I'll make food for you later." He snapped back to his senses. "Oh, it's fine. Rest for now." He fell into deep thought again, pondering. Strange. Why is this happening? Just wait. Maybe the effect hasn't been activated yet. An hour later, the clock struck 7:1. He was sitting on the ground in a meditative posture, a blue aura enveloping him. She, on the other hand, was still lying on the couch, fast asleep. He looked behind him, and, to his surprise, noticed the powerful wave of energy pouring out. She remained deep in slumber. Around her, faint glimmers of blue light flickered. The status frame was changing. He gazed at her status frame, which displayed her name: Yi Yu. Cultivation talent: medium. Ice talent: novice yet to awaken. Then, to his astonishment, the talent cultivation level rose by 2 full ranks. He stared at it, slightly startled. He then bent down and picked up a vial of mid-level fierce beast blood. Lost in thought, he pondered the significance of medium-level cultivation with the rare ice talent. His eyes reddened as he looked at her, quietly affirming to himself, "Yi Yu will definitely become a top-tier warrior." Holding the vial of mid-level fierce beast blood, it shimmered with light. He silently felt a surge of pride and challenge. "Mo Shao Bai, if you're brave enough, come at me." He brought it closer, his eyes fixed on it with a menacing look. "I'm sure I won't lose to you." By now night had fully fallen, and the moon peeked out from behind the clouds somewhere in the distance. He poured the mid-level fierce beast blood into his mouth. He leaned down, reaching for a plate of food on the table, silently sighing. "Oh God, this taste. How long is it going to last?" He immediately picked up the food and threw it into his mouth, causing it to scatter everywhere. He ate ravenously, thinking, "Back in the cave, I wanted to eat. Finally, I can eat now." A surge of purple energy gathered around him. He wondered, if it was the blood of a mid-level ominous beast, how much stronger would it make him? He had to keep training his body. The power continued to flow into him. His neck bulged with veins. His eyes widened in surprise. Damn it, 8 times stronger. He kept his eyes wide open. If I had enough blood, I could break through to the warrior stage. 2 bottles of mid-level fierce beast blood were still full, standing upright on the ground, while the other bottle had already been drained and was lying on the ground. He sighed in regret. "What a pity, I only have 2 legs left. What should I do?" In the small forest of the 5th Academy, 10 days later, a castle appeared behind the dense trees. A golden bird landed on Yi Tian's head before flying off, leaving him sitting there in silence. Zhang Bao rushed over, panting heavily, constantly complaining. "What should I do? What should I do, Yi Tian?" Seeing him running over in a panic, Yi Tian calmly asked, "What happened?" Zhang Bao, still out of breath, reported, "Mo Shao Bai, he." Yi Tian stood up suddenly. "He's here?" Zhang Bao quickly said, "No, no, no." He pointed ahead and recounted the situation. He's planning to break through to the warrior stage by secluding himself in that room. He definitely has something planned. He wants to become a warrior before you, and then make you pay. Then you saw him calmly sit down and immediately remind you, "Damn it, why did you sit down? This is serious business." At this moment, he was completely calm, in stark contrast to you. He's just in seclusion. I thought he came here to challenge us. He closed his eyes and contemplated, considering Mo Xiaobai's abilities. He's at the medium cultivation level. To break through to the warrior stage, it'll take him about a month. Zhang Bao, worried, raised his voice. If he really becomes a warrior, won't he easily crush you like a bull? He sat there confidently, without fear. He's cultivating, but so am I. I'm not afraid of him. You hurriedly explained to Yi Tian. He comes from a noble family and has vast resources. What about you? You only have 3 intermediate fierce beast bloods, and you've already used them all up. He scratched his face with a finger. Yeah, I've used them all. Zhang Bao fell to his knees, hands on the ground, looking regretful. It seems like you're about to die. I'll help take care of your funeral. I'll also take care of your sister for you. He continued to think. Right now, all I have left are ominous beast blood, spotted snake blood, low-level blood, and heart blood. After using these up, I should be able to reach the high-level trainee warrior stage. He squeezed his eyes shut, still trapped in his thoughts. Even though I'm just a step away from becoming a warrior, I still can't break through. But with my strength, speed, and swordsmanship, I should still have the power to fight like a warrior. At the Mo family estate, a majestic and imposing castle stood tall. In front of a certain room, a guard stood watch. Suddenly, the door cracked open, then exploded, and a figure stepped out from behind it. The subordinate knelt respectfully. Congratulations, young master, for becoming a warrior. Mo Xiaobai's body was covered in bulging muscles, a tremendous aura of power surrounding him. The subordinate continued. Young master will return safely. At that moment, in a place called Mo family, grand and imposing in appearance, a large, muscular, blonde-haired subordinate knelt solemnly and spoke. Congratulations to young Master Mo for reaching the warrior stage. Long live young master. A man appeared, standing confidently before the guard, accompanied by 2 maidservants. At this moment, a middle-aged gentleman with a refined demeanor entered through the door, grinning broadly and loudly proclaiming, "Ha! Finally, Xiao Bai has stepped out." Xiao Bai was a little surprised upon hearing this. "Father," the man stretched out his arms and said, "It seems you've reached the warrior stage, just as expected from my son." At this moment, he wore a satisfied smile. It turned out that this man was Mo Wan, the father of Mo Xiao Bai. He was the cornerstone of the Mo family, and one of the elite mid-tier warriors among the 10 great elders of the Mo family. He placed his hand on Mo Xiao Bai's shoulder and offered words of praise. "Xiao Bai, well done." Upon hearing his father's words, Mo Xiao Bai replied without hesitation. "Don't worry, father, I won't bring shame to the Mo family." Mo Wan furrowed his brows slightly as he looked at him, then said, "Of course, the Grand Elder said he wanted to personally reward you." With that, Mo Xiao Bai respectfully kneeled before his father. Mo Wan happily added, "Ha ha, get up, my son." Next, he turned around to face one of his subordinates and commanded, "Go check if the meal has been prepared yet." The subordinate quickly complied. "Yes, master." Mo Lan extended his hand, but a voice interjected, "Wait, I have something else to attend to." Seeing this, Mo Lan advised his son, "Xiao Bai, remember to eat after you return. I prepared your favorite dishes to celebrate." Mo Xiao Bai stood across from him and obediently replied, "Thank you, father." After that, he and one of his subordinates slowly made their way outside. As soon as Mo Wan left, Mo Xiao Bai's expression gradually shifted, becoming serious and somber as he asked, "The matter I entrusted to you, before I entered seclusion, have you investigated it thoroughly?" The blonde subordinate, who appeared quite sinister, replied to him, "Master, I've already investigated everything a long time ago. That kid has no parents, no background. We can bully him as much as we want." Upon hearing this, Mo Xiao Bai sneered and responded, "Oh, so he's just a useless nobody with no background. I thought he had some powerful connections." As Mo Xiao Bai walked out the door, he continued, "If that's the case, find someone." At that moment, the luxurious surroundings with a swimming pool outside came into view. Mo Xiao Bai, now stroking his chin with a sly grin, bluntly said aloud, "Kill him." The blonde subordinate seemed somewhat confused and explained, "Master, killing someone isn't the same as in the wilderness. Even with the Mo family's influence and power, if we happen to kill someone, it will still cause some trouble." Without wasting time, Mo Xiaobai took a sip from the full wine glass in his hand and calmly replied, "Who told you to kill him in the name of the Mo family?" He gritted his teeth and smirked, his eyes filled with malice, then ordered, "Hire an assassin from the shadows." Who could possibly investigate a shadow assassin? The blonde subordinate, seemingly in disagreement, said, "But hiring a shadow assassin would cost at least 1 million. He's just a poor kid. Does he really deserve that?" Mo Xiaobai, sitting on the chair sipping his wine, sneered, "A servant is always a servant," with a mind full of such petty thoughts. A maritime base of such a large scale. Only a few clans remained uncollapsed, the rest were all slaves. Mo Xiaobai, after a brief pause, widened his eyes and said, "Do you know why?" He forcefully placed the wine glass down and answered, "Because if a genius is discovered among those poor wretches, that genius will be killed immediately." Mo Xiaobai smashed the glass into pieces, and at that moment he wore an indescribable expression, both ferocious and proud. The blonde subordinate was somewhat stunned by those words, but he continued, "Therefore, the Fifth Academy cannot nurture any genius. The weak die, and the strong survive. This is the law of this world." With that, Mo Xiaobai flashed a wicked, cunning smile. Soon after, the scene shifted to a desolate and remote place, hidden behind a forest. In the transition, it was easy to recognize the elegant sword swing of someone. Among the towering trees with thick trunks, several young people seemed to be flying in midair, focusing all their energy on holding their swords as they advanced toward the stone in the middle. Among them, Yi Tian appeared, powerful and resolute. He raised his sharp sword high into the air and aimed directly at the stone below. With that, he delivered a fierce, tiger-like slash. With this intense strike from Yi Tian, the stone shattered into pieces effortlessly. Yi Tian suddenly exhaled a long breath, looking slightly exhausted. He stood there, one hand on his hip, raising the other to look at the sky, and then spoke, "It's about to rain, it's time to go home." Not long after, a foot stepped forward, walking through the heavy downpour that soaked the ground, appearing before our eyes. Who could it be? It turned out to be Yi Tian. Soon after, his cold figure emerged against the gloomy sky. Moments later, the rain that had been falling relentlessly began to intensify. Yi Tian quickly made his way toward a building that seemed to have fallen into disrepair. Suddenly, his feet stopped and he stood still. Unexpectedly, Yi Tian remained strong, unfazed by the falling rain, his gaze fixed ahead. After a while, a thought suddenly crossed his mind. "Oh my! What is that? I think I've realized something." Towards the utility pole, a small screen appeared by chance. He slowly focused his eyes on it, staring intently at the strange sight. Suddenly, an announcement sound played. Yi Tian opened a status window, displaying information about a person named Lei Kun. Cultivation talent is poor, and dark power is at the novice level. At this moment, the notification screen began to fade away under the rain. Strangely, a streak of black light suddenly shot down from above, heading straight for Yi Tian, who stood silently in the rain. Yi Tian suddenly widened his eyes, surely having noticed something unusual was about to happen. A man, dressed in a mysterious black outfit, held two swords in his hands, pointing one directly at Yi Tian. But unfortunately, it had already been blocked by him after the fierce clash between them. And so, the two of them separated, briefly flying backward. Adopting a stance, Yi Tian stood resolutely, with a posture ready for combat. His face was cold, and with a suspicious look in his eyes, he asked the man, "Who are you?" The sharp tip of the sword was now pointed at him. Finally, it became clear. The man had a jagged, ominous form. He smiled arrogantly, responding to Yi Tian's confusion with disdain. "I will kill you." The sky above continued as it was, unrelenting in releasing heavy rain that fell to the ground. Yi Tian stood bravely before him and asked, "Who are you?" The man smiled slyly, displaying his arrogant expression, drawing his sword in front of him, and arrogantly replied, "The one who will take your life." Witnessing this scene, Yi Tian began to piece things together. Wait a minute, could he be an assassin sent by Mo Xiaobai? But Mo Xiaobai has become a warrior now. He could have come to fight me directly. Why resort to such underhanded tactics? The more he thought, the more puzzled he became. Suddenly, a gust of wind appeared out of nowhere. It turned out, the man had flown straight up into the sky. Immediately after that, he swiftly raised his hand, pointing the tip of his sword forward, his gaze incredibly fierce. Noticing this unusual move, he quickly glanced over. Without delay, not long after, he gently swung his sword and narrowly avoided Lai Kun's attack. Afterward, Yi Tian moved to another position, quite a distance away from Lai Kun. His mind became increasingly puzzled, and he still could not see anything, landing safely. He stood bent over in that position, silently thinking to himself, "It seems that this shadow talent is a kind of innate ability that allows one to become invisible." Yi Tian's eyes burned with a fierce, glaring light as he stared ahead. He never expected Lai Kun to play such underhanded tricks. Lai Kun appeared behind him, clearly preparing for a sneak attack, but in truth, it would not be so easy to outmaneuver Yi Tian's sharp senses. He glanced over, filled with intense fury, gritting his teeth, then made a move that left Lai Kun no chance to react. Using the speed of light, he shot up into the sky, dodging his opponent's attack in mere seconds. After being struck by such a blow, Lai Kun was seething with rage, even thinking in disbelief, "Damn it, he's just an apprentice. How can he be this fast?" Without giving him time to think, Yi Tian, now in midair, decisively shouted, loud and clear, "My turn to strike, right?" Before long, the two faces with such contrasting expressions faced each other. One radiated confident dominance, while the other showed the complete opposite. At that moment, he had already swung his sword straight out, delivering a powerful strike in his direction. It was hard to believe, but Lai Kun suddenly flashed a smile full of cunning. Could it be that he had some ulterior motive? Suddenly, right at that moment, a large cloud of smoke burst out from his side. It was difficult to see anything clearly. Yi Tian, upon seeing Lai Kun's sudden disappearance, immediately realized that it was an invisibility technique. He continued to reflect. For an ordinary person, this move would surely be fatal. And yet, standing boldly amidst the gust of wind, there wasn't a trace of fear in his posture. But for me, it has no effect. While thinking, he sharpened his gaze, his eyes burning with murderous intent. His next move would surprise us even more. He had somehow already located Lai Kun's position and struck his sword fiercely, releasing a flash of white light that pierced the air towards Lai Kun, who was suspended in midair, stunned by Yi Tian's sudden attack. Lai Kun instinctively opened his mouth, eyes wide in disbelief, while blood splattered everywhere. Then, he fell violently to the ground, creating a deep hole where he landed. He was in pain, but refused to accept his fate, shouting, "How could this be? Even an elite warrior couldn't possibly see through my innate abilities." Lai Kun frowned, full of confusion, then asked, "How did you do it?" Soon after, the image of a foot slowly touching the ground appeared. Yi Tian landed with great arrogance, looked at him coldly, and said, "You want to know?" He continued speaking in an extremely cold tone. "Then tell me, who sent you here?" Yi Tian suddenly changed his expression, becoming more serious. Until now, he had not been able to let go of his arrogance. "Himph. When you're on your death." At that moment, his hand quickly grabbed the sword on the ground, his movements wild and aggressive like a beast that had lost control. His face twisted with anger as he shouted, "I'll tell you." As soon as he finished speaking, Lai Kun charged forward with lightning speed, pointing the sword straight at Yi Tian. Yi Tian's eyes suddenly widened in shock, but with quick reflexes, he leaped high into the air, leaving Lai Kun behind. It turned out to be just an illusionary strike created by him. Moments later, he landed firmly with unshakable resolve. He didn't intend to waste any time. Yi Tian swiftly moved forward with remarkable agility. Oh my God, the speed was unimaginable. His sharp sword pierced through, leaving dark red streaks of blood behind. It struck through Lai Kun's body from behind so quickly that he couldn't react in time. Lai Kun seemed to freeze for a moment, dazed and confused. As for Yi Tian, unable to hold his frustration any longer, he demanded angrily, "I'll ask you one more time, who sent you?" Each word he spoke echoed in Lai Kun's ears, accompanied by a fierce glare from Yi Tian, as if it had pushed him beyond his limits. In response, Lai Kun let out a sneering laugh, but there was a hint of helplessness in it. "Ha ha, You're the strongest apprentice I've ever met. Truly impressive. Well, let me tell you this. Mo Xiaobai, the scenario is bound to unfold this way. At this moment, Lai Kun had already met his end, lying cold and lifeless on the ground. And what about Yi Tian? He stood tall, his sword in hand, his aura overwhelming. The wind swept through, making his clothes flutter, adding to his heroic presence. His face, filled with hatred, locked onto Lai Kun before him. Mo Xiaobai. He repeated the name once again, accompanied by a surge of extreme resentment. Gritting his teeth, Yi Tian then knelt on one knee beside Lai Kun and prepared to place his hand on a lifeless body. As soon as his hand descended, eerie black lights began to materialize from below without hesitation. But that wasn't all. Yi Tian had already started his work, and as he did so, streaks of light appeared around his position. After a long while, he finally received the notification. Copycat talent haunting successful. He looked exhausted, unsteady on his feet, his legs shaky as he slowly stood up. In that moment, thick, white smoke began to pour out in a haze. Raindrops fell gently, the smoke swirling in a foggy mist, complementing the powerful silhouette of Yi Tian. His two legs stood firm and imposing. At that very instant, the status window appeared on the screen, revealing the information. The human known as Yi Tian, talent level medium, speed talent novice, knife talent medium, and finally, the shadow talent. Novice had obtained the shadow talent, followed by Yi Tian, who appeared very composed, his handsome face mixed with a look of rage, his eyes flashing a fierce red. A heavy downpour poured relentlessly, and a lightning bolt struck, casting violet electricity with a loud crack. A man took the brunt of the lightning, spitting blood, his eyes wide open, falling backward. The impact was forceful, tearing the man's clothes apart. He lay flat on the ground with a large crater from the collision. A man in a purple robe staggered while carrying large stones, with the rain pouring down incessantly like a waterfall. His thin fingers touched the stone. The man in the purple robe placed the stones to form a grave at the spot where the other man had fallen. The birds hurriedly flew back to their nests amidst the rain. A green leaf, blown by the strong wind, fell to the ground. The man in the purple robe knelt beside it, supporting himself with his hands. As humans, we should not fall like a leaf. The man's eyes remained wide open, staring fixedly at the stone grave he had just built. Despite the wind or the rain, he picked up the leaf from the puddle with his hand. I am Yi Tian. For my entire life, I crushed the leaf in my hand to live as a human in this world. The man stood up and walked through the rain. I must be the rain. I must be the wind. Surely not the falling leaf. Grinding his teeth and smiling, the man raised his head to look at the sky. At the apartment complex, the light rain on the rooftops had yet to stop. The sound of the showerhead running water could be heard. Yi Tian leisurely took a shower and washed his hair, then dried himself with a towel. He walked into the living room, placed the towel on the couch, and picked up his shirt. Yi Tian put it on, then quickly walked over to the sofa, sat down, leaned his hands on the soft cushions beside him, and reclined back, feeling completely relaxed and refreshed. Then, his gaze turned to the coffee table, where there were white and gold cards, 2 books, and 2 red exorcism swords placed next to them. Glancing at the red sword in his hand, the aura around it reeked of blood. These 2 swords were probably weapons from the Yuan dynasty. His own sword was already chipped and worn, but these 2 were still in perfect condition. Looking at the cards on the table, he picked up one of the golden cards. It was a 1 million card, a 100,000 silver card, and in total, there was 3.5 million. Yi Tian happily opened his wallet and shoved the cards inside. Haha, Mo Xiaobai. This money is what you spent to buy my life. I'll make sure to use it well. He picked up the black book. What's this? Shadow Knife. Sitting cross-legged, he began to read. The Shadow Knife book, A-level bronze swordsmanship skill, a valuable item. As he read the contents of the book, he was delighted. The skill could fully unlock the potential of his swordsmanship talent. This was exactly what he needed right now. Holding the book, he eagerly walked into the room, ready to try it out and begin his training. The door slammed shut, and sitting on the edge of the bed, he opened the book to the first page. The sound of thunder in the rain echoed clearly through the window. He was startled as he looked out the window, waiting, then suddenly panicked, standing up abruptly. Why hadn't Yi Yu come back yet? He ran quickly outside, Since Mo Xiaobai had sent someone to assassinate him, it meant he must know all of his information by now. Yi Tian gripped the door tightly, meaning he ran to grab the railing of the balcony and quickly let go. Yi Yu could also be assassinated. He jumped down, the red aura surrounding his body. Yi Tian soared through the pouring rain. Yi Yu, please be safe. The heavy rain splashed and streamed over the blackish-purple umbrellas of the people passing by. The streets were lined with red buildings. It was an ordinary middle school in the outskirts of the city, standing out in a low-key way. Couples huddled together under umbrellas, walking along the road. Singles strolled lightly along the street like a gust of wind. Yi Tan quickly flew down into a narrow alley. He landed heavily on the ground to avoid being seen using his superpowers. Barefoot, he ran quickly through the streets, scanning around nervously, his hands clenched, eyes filled with worry. Yi Yu, where are you? The rain dampened his clothes slightly as he paused in the middle of the sidewalk. This is an ordinary school. There shouldn't be someone with power casually killing here. Yi Tian frowned. But someone like Mo Xiaobai, would he stay within the boundaries of a warrior? A red umbrella poked into his back. Don't move. He was startled, his defense reflexively rising, shooting upwards into the sky. Looking down, a person with a brown backpack, wearing a hooded coat, and holding a red umbrella stood there. Sensing no danger, he crouched down, standing in front of the person in the coat. No, now you're the one who shouldn't make a move, he said. The person in the coat pushed the hood back, revealing Yi Yu. She smiled and waved at him. Big brother, it's me. Exhaling a light puff of smoke, she showed the difference in temperature. Yi Tan was stunned. Hey, Yi Yu. Then he grew angry, placing his hands on his hips and questioning her. What's going on? Why did you take so long to come back? She innocently replied, I had duty today, and I cleaned the whole classroom. Then, she opened the umbrella and asked him, Big brother, why didn't you bring an umbrella and wear proper shoes when you went out? You're all wet. Yi Tan hesitated before answering. I rushed out in a hurry and forgot. They both walked away. She curiously asked, By the way, what was that movement just now? How did you do that? Tell me. The two siblings chatted happily, unaware that a black car parked by the side of the road was quietly observing them. Inside the car, a man watched them closely. He was Mo Xiaobai. Furrowing his brows, he gritted his teeth in anger and muttered, How is that bastard still alive? The torrential rain poured down, drenching the rooftops of tall buildings. A crispy golden sausage was poked by a small wooden skewer, held out in front of him. Here's your grilled sausage. Take it. Why Yu bent down happily to receive the sausage. Thank you. Yi Tian stood behind, holding an umbrella for her. The two of them walked and ate sausages, chatting happily. The siblings walked on the sidewalk. Let's go home. Yi Yu said, That's right, brother. What do you want to eat tonight? I'll cook for you. He pondered. About that. Cook your specialty, hot pot beef. A black car drove slowly close to the sidewalk. Sensing something, Yi Tian glanced back. Are we being followed? The car slowed down, trailing behind the two siblings. On the road, as the siblings arrived home, the rain had not stopped. Yi Yu excitedly brought a plate of food in her hands. Hey, brother, the meal is ready. Yi Tian was standing in the hallway, looking down at the black car parked under their house. Hurry, bring this food. The voice from inside answered, Coming right now. When he entered the house, he didn't forget to glance at the car outside. In the morning at school, Yi Yu heard her teacher call her name. Holding a book and looking down at the students below. Solve this problem. Yi Yu quickly stood up, holding the book, and looked up at the board cheerfully. Yes, sir. In another corner, a dark figure stood on the rooftop opposite the school building. Yi Tian stood with his hands in his pockets, wearing a hoodie with the hood pulled over his head, standing on the roof of a building, staring intently at the school building. He pulled the hood back, turning to glance down at the street. The man spotted a black car parked in the parking lot. For 3 consecutive days, Yi Tan frowned, a smirk forming on his lips. Daring to set your sights on Yi Yu? You've crossed the line. He furrowed his brows. Gone already. The parking lot was empty. As the car drove away, Yi Tian swiftly launched himself off the rooftop, soaring after the black vehicle, darting past towering buildings. The car came to a stop in a desolate area, resembling a vast warehouse. As the car door swung open, Yi Tian arrived at the same moment. He stood atop a massive crane. Here, huh? A man in black slowly stepped out of the vehicle and walked inside. Yi Tian pressed his lips together, his brows furrowing in anger. Mo Xiaobai. Blood splattered across the tiled floor. The man in black delivered a brutal punch to a man in a light-colored suit, sending him crashing backward. He collapsed onto the floor, blood smeared around him. Paralyzed, he stammered, Master Mo, I swear I really don't have the money. Two men in black suits stood on either side of him, while another man sat on a stack of wooden planks, watching. The man in the light suit crawled on the floor, blood filling his mouth as he begged, Once I have the money, I'll pay you back immediately. Please, spare me. He dropped to his knees, bowing his head in desperate plea. The man in black, seated on the wooden planks, sneered. If you don't pay today, the debt doubles tomorrow. My money isn't that easy to borrow after all. Mo Xiaobai clasped his hands together, bent forward with his elbows resting on his knees, his eyes radiating a murderous intent. You think it's right, don't you? The man placed his hands on his thighs, kneeling. Please, the interest rate you're asking for is too high. I can't afford it. I have elderly people above me and children below me. Please spare me. A man in a black suit entered from outside. Young master, I've returned. Mo Xiaobai glanced toward the door. The man in the black suit approached Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai asked, Any news about Phantom Assassin? Yi Tian, using his cloaking technique, flew in and sat in a corner, where he could observe everything in the warehouse. The man in the black suit, with blonde hair, began his report. I can't contact that assassin. Let me try reaching out through other channels. Looking down and hearing the words of the blonde man, Mo Xiaobai fell silent and thought, as expected, the assassin was sent by Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai slipped his hands into his pockets and walked forward. Does someone think that the money from my noble family's descendants is so easy to swindle? Mo Xiaobai shouted furiously and kicked the man's chin, sending him flying backward. The blonde-haired man stood aside, sweating coldly, anxious. No, I wouldn't dare. My subordinates are always loyal to you, young master. We never thought of such a thing. A man in a black suit stepped forward and sat down next to the man in the light-colored clothes. The man was lying motionless on the ground, and the man in the black suit placed his hand on his chest and reported, Young master, he's gone. Hearing that, Mo Xiaobai waved his hand and ordered, Throw it away. Then he leaned over and asked the blonde man, Right, what about Yi Tian's sister? Have you figured out how to deal with her? The blonde man lowered his head. Originally, I planned to entrust it to a friend who just got out of prison. But now it seems that others are not doing the job well. I will handle it myself. Mo Xiaobai approached the blonde man again. He was smaller than the blonde man, but the blonde man lowered his head, not daring to look at him. Please rest assured, young master. Mo Xiaobai smiled, then casually pushed his hand into the blonde man's stomach, causing him to bend over and fall. He knelt on the ground, bowing and begging, Young master, why? Mo Xiaobai lifted his hand, which was stained with color, furrowed his brows, and smiled. This is the punishment for being ineffective. Yi Tian extended his hand, revealing the red sword in midair. Yuan weapon. He gripped the sword tightly, and, like the wind, he jumped down, right above Mo Xiaobai's head. Mo Xiaobai heard the sound, frowned, and looked behind him. With a single swing of the sword, it left a slash in the air. 3 heads immediately fell to the ground, blood splattering everywhere. Yi Tian, holding the sword, flew into the air. He frowned as he looked back, then smiled contentedly. The view became narrower, and the surrounding space was quite dark. A blood-stained hand lay quietly on the ground. A loud scream echoed. The bodyguards surrounded the corpse on the ground, shouting loudly, Young master! The young master has been killed by someone. One of the bodyguards with blonde hair tied up, his face contorted, blood still staining his lips, said, The shadow talent hides its movements. Are you like Kun? The questioning voice rang out as his face darkened. Blood splattered all over him, both hands gripping 2 swords, his clothes fluttering in the wind, revealing a set of toned abs. With each step he took, a dense green aura of killing intent radiated. His eyes sharpened, glowing red, and he grinned in a sinister manner. The bodyguard stood frozen in place, while the others, seeing this, quickly fled. He walked step by step towards the man, who anxiously asked, Why is it you? How do you possess the shadow talent? He continued to question, clutching his wounded chest. I've investigated you before. You're just a useless, weak talent. How could you possibly kill the young master with a single blow? Where is Lycan? Speak up, you bastard! While he kept pressing with his questions, the man gently tilted his head up, slowly closing his eyes. Finally, he exhaled a puff of white smoke, and his eyes turned completely white, no longer showing any pupils. In an instant, he leaped into the air, causing the air around him to ripple and form a swirling gust of wind. He leaped toward the blonde bodyguard, a blue light radiating around him. He raised a sword horizontally and charged straight at him to attack. The red sword, stained with blood in midair, swung once again directly toward his opponent. The bodyguard yelled out, "You can't kill me." But it was too late. The sword cleaved a deep gash along his side. As he stood in disbelief, his mouth agape, with a swift and decisive strike, the sword tore through his body, and veins bulged on the man's arm, the red light from the blade flashing as it sliced through the young bodyguard's torso. Blood spurted from his mouth. As the attack finished, he jumped backward, while the bodyguard collapsed to the ground, his hands drenched in blood. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and used it to wipe the blood from his sword. In that brief moment, his expression remained tense, the handkerchief now soaked with blood. After finishing, he tossed the blood-stained handkerchief onto the bodyguard's corpse. The handkerchief flew through the air and gently landed on the ground, a bold red character imprinted on it. He dropped his sword, still surrounded by red lightning. He also lowered his head, the hood of his cloak still up. I'm not some little lamb to be slaughtered. If anyone's to blame, it's you fools for picking the wrong target to bully. He cast a quick glance at the bodies before turning away, leaving them scattered on the ground. He turned into a streak of red lightning and flew off. An hour later, in the abandoned building, several black cars pulled into the yard. A fist was raised in the air. Who is it? Who is the one responsible? The growl came from a fat man with a bald head and a rather fierce-looking goatee. Who killed my son? He crouched down next to his son's corpse. Around him, 3 bodyguards stood guard. One of the bodyguards picked up the handkerchief that the young man had left earlier, raising it in the air and saying, "Elder 10, I found this at the scene." He handed the handkerchief to him. Perhaps the killer is a phantom assassin. Did they hire a phantom assassin? Such cruelty. The man looked at the handkerchief in his hand, then quietly said, "Old Mo." A figure dressed in black appeared at the door, walking through the murmurs of the surrounding bodyguards. The man who walked forward had silver white hair slicked back, with a white beard as well. This was Mo Jong King, the Grand Elder of the Mo family, based in Lin Hai. He was the only Grand Warrior of the Mo family, with the ranks of Warrior, Apprentice, Warrior, Elite Warrior, Great Warrior, and Grand Elder. The Elder 10 was also bewildered and turned to ask. He quickly knelt and crawled to the Grand Elder's feet, saying, "Grand Elder, my son is dead. The genius of the Mo family is dead." He knew. "Get up, speak." He closed his eyes and gently said, "Grand Elder, Xiao Bai had just broken through to the warrior stage and had just finished your celebration banquet. Originally, that child could have become a great warrior. He could have revitalized our Mo family." He remained kneeling, resolutely saying, "Now, to meet such a tragic end, it's truly like a lifeless body lying motionless on the ground." That's right, the boy was the hope of the next generation for the Mo family. If a second great warrior were to appear in our Mo family, our position at the Lin Hai base would definitely rise sharply. He gritted his teeth and continued, "Therefore, my son cannot die in vain." Elder 10 shed tears, quietly responding. He raised both hands and presented the handkerchief to Mo Jong King. "Please, Grand Elder, avenge Xiao Bai." He took the handkerchief, inspecting it for a moment before speaking. "Phantom assassin." Suddenly, his eyes lit up, as if he had just thought of something. "It must have been some families who hold grudges against us. They hired the phantom assassin." He raised the fabric in his hand high. Just then, the sun was rising, its rays shining through the fabric. Thanks to the sunlight, a strange symbol appeared at the edge of the cloth. It was the image of a fang, with a circle above it, partially missing. "Iron Teeth," he said in a low voice. "The Iron Teeth base?" A voice rang out within the ancient castle. "That's right, the Iron Teeth base is much stronger than our Lin Hai base," Zhang Bao said, answering the question. "The Grand Elder of the Mo family suspected that a certain family within our Lin Hai base had secretly conspired with the Iron Teeth base. killing off the younger generation's masters, and then planning to annex the Lin Hai base. He spoke with a tense tone. I heard that Mo Xiaobai, who just broke through to the warrior stage, was killed by them and had his head chopped off. He raised his hand to cover his mouth and whispered to him. After hearing this, he sighed deeply. That's great. It looks like no one suspects that it was me. After Mo Xiaobai broke through to the warrior stage, the first person he would have dealt with would definitely be you. Now he's been taken out by someone else. You're really lucky, huh? Zhang Bao hummed, as he walked ahead, sighing. The cloth with the symbol from Lai Kun was originally something he had left at the scene to divert Mo family's attention elsewhere. But then the Grand Elder of Mo family discovered the iron teeth base insignia on the cloth. He lowered his head, lost in thought. Could it be that I've made a mistake? Did I really uncover the plot of Iron Teeth Base? Or was it just that old man making up lies? As he walked, he pondered, intentionally stirring up conflict between the two bases. The scene shifted to the front of the base. It was 4 a.m. the next day, and it was still a little dark. Yi Tian had just woken up and stretched to shake off the sleepiness. He quietly got out of bed, put on his black hooded outfit, grabbed his bag, swung it over his shoulder, and began walking toward the door. After putting on his shoes and tying them, at that moment, his younger sister's voice rang out. She had noticed him sneaking off somewhere. He seemed indifferent to responding. Is it still fine enough to wake you up? What are you planning to do so early in the morning? She asked, rubbing her eyes. Yi Tian stood up and said, I'm going to the wild zone to train alone. I need to make use of the time to improve my strength. She replied, but you've just come home a few days ago. And now you're leaving again, and alone, no less. She spoke in confusion. Can't you stay? Or at least take some friends with you? She bit her nails and suggested, Don't worry, you will stay at home, and wait for you. He comforted her, and without turning back, walked straight ahead. Immediately, she ran up, throwing herself forward, and tightly hugged him from behind, not giving him any chance to leave. Yu, he warned. You must come back home soon, she gently reminded him from behind. Mem, he replied as she continued to hold him tightly. A moment later, the red lightning from his body shot directly into a vast desert. He landed on the desert, assuming a crouching position. It was said that there were high-level ominous beasts here, but with his current strength, he could only sneakily hunt some low-level ominous beasts on the outer edges without disturbing the high-level ones. He quietly surveyed the surroundings. This time, he closed his eyes reluctantly, thinking that it was his turn to break through to the warrior stage. Yi Tian cracked his knuckles and spoke in a low voice. Suddenly, the ground beneath his feet trembled violently, causing him to lose his balance. What's going on? An earthquake. At the same time, a strange creature appeared from the distance. No, his eyes sharpened. It was an ominous beast. The monster appeared from afar, its body dark red, resembling a bull, with a long mane swept back, its fierce expression madly attacking the smaller ominous beasts beneath it. A notification appeared. Ominous beast armored bull. Innate bloodline. Inferior rank. Innate defense. Second class. Armored bull. Second class innate defense. He placed a hand on his chin and thought, wondering if it had spotted him. After eliminating the smaller beasts, the ominous beast charged toward him. It ran at full speed, fist raised, roaring in fury. Perfect timing, he said calmly, setting his backpack behind him. He released his grip, and the backpack fell to the ground. The moment it touched the earth, he charged toward the ominous beast. Given the size difference, he raised his hand, summoning bolts of lightning toward it. Immediately, a glowing red sword appeared in his hand. With 2 swords in hand, he used the momentum to leap higher and deliver a strike. A whirlwind surrounded him, while the ominous beast launched a sharp horn. He aimed directly at the horn, his eyes flashing. However, the strike failed to reach the ominous beast as it created a protective shield around itself. The defensive force was too strong. He stared at the shield in bewilderment, thinking to himself, this is strange. After a thunderous roar from the ominous beast, he was blasted backward. The deafening sound of something shattering echoed, large boulders cracking and soaring into the sky. In the blink of an eye, dust and sand filled the air. Truly, it was a raw talent of the highest order. He thought, from now on, it will belong to me. Then, he slowly advanced toward the ominous beast position. The beast's fist slammed hard into the ground, creating a thunderous sound. Its gaze became sharp, glowing bright red, looking truly dangerous. It lost control, charging forward in a frenzy, attacking him, with dust and sand flying everywhere. He said, "The novice-level defensive skill will be mine soon." As his words ended, his face twisted with even more madness. He raised his gleaming sword, one resting on his shoulder. At this moment, the battle was far from over. A gust of wind rushed through, and he charged forward, wielding two swords, leaving behind a trail of lightning. His body was surrounded by red electric currents, and his eyes had become wild. He charged straight toward the beast. The ominous beast wasn't going to back down either. It raised its fist, but he swiftly dodged, leaping onto its body. He shot forward toward the beast's head as it opened its mouth wide. He knew that no matter what kind of creature it was, the weak spot would always be there. In a flash, he tossed one sword aside, adjusting his stance. Gripping both swords, he darted forward toward the ominous beast's gaping mouth. Its bloodshot eyes were now within his sights. He used all his strength to thrust both swords into those eyes. But suddenly he was stopped by an overwhelming defensive force. I can't break through it. Despite using all his power, it was still incredibly difficult. Changing direction, he continued to make sweeping slashes around the protective barrier. After withstanding too much force, at the moment the sword collided with the barrier once more, a crack suddenly appeared across the blade. It's just a novice-level defensive skill, yet it's so strong. He thought to himself as the sword in his hand instantly shattered into pieces due to the firmness of the barrier. As the fragments of the sword shot into the air, his gaze gradually wavered. His red pupils slowly shrank, the madness in his eyes impossible to conceal. The hands of the ominous beast behind the barrier slowly clenched into fists, and with a single blow, Yi Tan was sent flying far away, even while the barrier still remained. His eyes tightly shut, and blood spat from his mouth. He bent down to wipe the blood from his lips, thinking deeply. What a pity the notification appeared again, counting down the cooldown time for the power copying ability minus 16 seconds. This armored bull might even be weaker than the Silver Moon Wolf, but it was certainly much stronger than the ferocious scaled snake. He stood there, staring at his sword, which had broken in half. But its size is too huge. I just need to find its weakness and sneak an attack on it. He threw away the broken sword. We have a chance to win. He suddenly laughed, and a green aura radiated around him as he activated the power of darkness. A strange blue light emerged from the ground, swirling within the killing intent. Even his footsteps were accompanied by this aura. With only one sword left on his shoulder, he leaped forward. The power from that movement was much greater. He launched a relentless barrage of attacks, and all around the ominous beast were streaks of green slashes accompanied by lightning. This time, the strikes were faster and more decisive. The number of collisions with the barrier increased. The power of darkness was truly useful. It didn't even realize that it was being attacked. The ominous beast still stood motionless, looking down. While he remained alert, his figure surrounded by green smoke. Even swordsmanship skills were useless against this defense. The protective barrier, though affected by the attacks, remained persistent. Where's the weak point? He placed his hand on the back of his neck, looking up, thinking that this defense had no openings at all. This is troublesome. He sat down on the ground in front of the massive ominous beast. Suddenly, he noticed that the barrier behind its tail was thinner. The defense system here was weak. He scratched his head, surprised. Could this be its weak point? I have to try it. Ha! He laughed. Think and act. He quickly rushed towards it, gathering all his strength to strike, the sword in his hand enveloped in a powerful lightning aura. He delivered a painful blow toward the target he had aimed at. Indeed, the sword easily broke through the defensive layer. The injured beast shot out streams of purple blood, howling in agony. Indeed, after death, the dagger can be planted. He thrust the sword into its belly, and blood spurted out, a deep red color, flowing into the container. He sat down to collect the loot from the monster, with several similar containers nearby. After finishing, he sealed the jars. Looks like no matter how much talent or power one has, in the end, death is the end. He stood up, wiping the sweat from his forehead. This rhino hide must be worth a lot, right? The bull's eyes, the bull's beads. I should collect them all. The ominous beast lay on its back dead, but the most valuable thing was probably its sharp pair of horns. He went ahead and cut off the horns. Achoo! After collecting all the loot, he tied it up in his backpack and left. Time to find a quiet place and start his cultivation. With a smile on his face, he carried the heavy pack on his shoulder and walked off. After finding a cave, he entered and began carefully laying out the items he had collected. Fresh blood from a fierce beast. Peanut, the little sister, packed it for me. He muttered as he counted the items he had brought. Breaking through to the warrior stage really depends on all of you. He smiled at them. Immediately after, he poured the blood into his mouth and drank. At the same time, he ate all the peanuts he had brought along. Once finished, he began his cultivation. Waves of green light radiated around him, with the brightest spot in the center of his abdomen. These streams of light surrounded him, making it somewhat difficult and distracting. Time passed, and after 12 days, the cultivation came to an end. The food he had brought was also gone. He sat in the cave, silently exhausted. He exhaled a puff of white smoke, his face gloomy. His eyes at this moment gleamed with a wild blue light, and streaks of blue lightning shot out. Ugh! He threw his head back and screamed in pain, his entire body enveloped by lightning. The bolts of lightning shook the entire entrance of the cave. A strong wind stirred up the desert outside due to the violent vibrations. A streak of lightning shot down from the sky, directly hitting the cave. The mistress, observing from the desert, suddenly noticed two figures in mysterious cloaks appearing. Even in such a desolate, remote place, someone is breaking through to the warrior stage. A blonde girl among them smiled brightly as she spotted the unusual sight. The person next to her gave a faint smile, with his face concealed by a hood. Interesting, she said. On their cloaks appeared a symbol in the shape of a rose, with the words Marshall Pavilion underneath. Inside, Yi Tan gradually regained his composure and clenched his fist, silently marveling. This overwhelming sense of power. This is the warrior stage. He looked at his two arms and turned around, both enveloped in blue lightning. Armored bull. He then turned and looked at the empty blood vials that he had previously drained. More than 20 days had passed, and the recovery period must have ended by now. He grabbed his backpack, slung it over his shoulder, and decided to first copycat the defensive talent. The blue lightning flared up powerfully again, and he leaped forward, disappearing in an instant. After heading out to the old wilderness, he placed his hand on a large stone, and the notification board reappeared. The status of the copied object is incomplete, and the copying cannot be completed. Please choose an object with a complete status and then proceed with copying. There are rules like this. In front of him now lay nothing but the bones of the ominous beast. Sigh, I shouldn't have dissected it so early. He lowered his head and sighed, feeling disappointed. Not far above the large stone, the two girls spoke again. Miss, this ominous beast probably wasn't killed by him, right? He just broke through to the warrior stage, while this ominous beast has been dead for a long time. The other one pondered and replied, that makes sense. When the ominous beast died, he was still an apprentice. There's no way he could have killed it. The blonde girl placed her hand on her chin, deep in thought. An apprentice daring to enter the mountains to scavenge scraps? This guy's really bold. At this moment, Yi Tan had no idea that he was being watched. Calmly, he walked towards a desert oasis. He tossed his shoes and clothes onto the shore. It had been 10 days since he entered the mountains, so he needed to wash up thoroughly before heading home. He stripped off all his clothes and began stretching his limbs. Miss, he's indulging in depravity now. Stop talking. Let's go quickly. The two girls, upon seeing this scene, instinctively turned red. He jumped straight into the lake, the clear water splashing up in waves. At Linhai Base, the warrior market was still very bright, with people bustling around, each going about their business. It seemed that this was the largest store in the market. Yi Tan arrived in front of a store, looked up, and said, the sign is hanging on a pole above. Let's knock and see what's inside. He looked up, thinking that as soon as he stepped inside, a pair of women's high heels would walk past him in the opposite direction. It was none other than the two women who had been following him earlier. Huh? Isn't that the name from the Wildlands? He suddenly realized and widened his eyes. The girl with black hair remained calm, as if nothing was wrong. Her face gradually became clearer, her dark eyes, with a small mole beneath her left eye. Yi Yu, he realized in shock, unable to believe it. Yi Tan stared in surprise, instinctively muttering, little sister. The three of them stared at each other in silence, a silence that felt almost suffocating. The girl met his gaze, her face expressionless, silently wondering, is he calling me little sister? Yi Tian quickly realized his mistake and raised his hand to his forehead, thinking to himself, "No, how could Yu be here?" He then glanced at the person in front of him, silently thinking about this girl. But his thoughts were immediately interrupted by something that caused Yi Tian to freeze in terror, his eyes wide in shock. The spotlight focused on the girl. Yi Tian observed closely, silently amazed. A true genius. Yu Ling, a college-level talent, medium-level swordsmanship, second-class speed talent. At that moment, Xiao Yu, hearing this, became angry and shouted loudly, "Who are you calling little sister? You, Miss Gu, are just a chattering squirrel. That scrap-collecting guy of yours has gotten way too bold." The insults immediately reached Yi Tian's ears. He froze, muttering to himself, "Scrap collecting." Yi Tian raised his arm to his nose, sniffing, wondering. "I took a shower already. Could there still be a smell?" At this point, Yu Ling spoke up, reminding Xiao Yu. "Xiao Yu, stop talking nonsense." Xiao Yu chuckled awkwardly and responded, "Ah, I almost misspoke." Yu Ling walked over to Xiao Yu, whispering a plan. "Tell them like this, like this." Xiao Yu stroked her chin, nodding continuously. "Mim, mum. Then she stepped forward, bowed slightly in front of Yi Tian, and apologized. "Warrior, I was rude earlier. My mistress has taught me a lesson. Please forgive me for my behavior." Yi Tian glanced at Yu Ling as she walked away. He said to Xiao Yu, "Your mistress." Xiao Yu reached out and grabbed Yi Tian's wrist, understanding immediately, and said the mistress had something to do, so she left earlier. Xiao Yu happily pulled Yi Tian along, chatting as they walked. "Didn't you plan to go to the Martial Pavilion to sell materials?" "My mistress is the manager of the Martial Pavilion. I misspoke earlier, and to show our apologies. No matter what you want to sell, we will buy it back at double the price." Yi Tian was stunned by the generous offer, incredulously asking, "Double?" Xiao Yu gestured toward a path and quickly added, "That's right, please come in." Before long, Yi Tian had entered the premises. He glanced around, and the items there made him exclaim, "Wow, everything here is top quality." Yi Tian looked at the scaffolding where shields were neatly displayed and thought to himself, no wonder this was the largest store in the warrior market. At that moment, a cup of tea was carefully brought over. The store staff greeted him warmly and politely, saying, "Sir Warrior, please have some tea." Yi Tian expressed his gratitude. "Thank you." Items were laid out on the table, and the sound of counting echoed. Armored bull horn. 2, 4, 6, 7. The other person quickly concluded, "That will be 200,000 in total. If we double the price, you can sell it for 400,000. Hearing these words, Yi Tian, who was drinking tea, was so shocked that he spat out the water when he heard the figure of 400,000 yen. He put his hand to his head, stammering, "This is a knife." Then he thought to himself, "Money seems too easy to make now." Xiao Yu immediately placed 4 silver cards worth 100,000 each on the table, and then combined them before handing them to Yi Tian. She smiled and said, "Please take them, sir." Yi Tian extended his hand to take them, not forgetting to thank her. Yi Tian stared at the 4 silver cards, silently thinking, if Yu saw this, she would be so happy. Then, Xiao Yu picked up the store's menu and explained, "Sir Warrior, our mistress also wanted me to tell you that, to show her sincerity, if you wish to buy anything, we will offer you a 50% discount." Yi Tian felt as though he had struck gold, and with a delighted laugh, he said, "In that case, I won't be polite." With that, he flipped open the menu and began reading. Looking at the expensive items, Yi Tian reflected, "These items are so pricey. No wonder cultivation materials are monopolized by the big clans. How could ordinary people afford these resources?" Yi Tian fell into deep thought, silently staring at the menu in his hands. After pondering for a long while, he finally made his decision. 1 volume of the energy disintegration technique. 1 volume of ominous beast information. 3 vials of intermediate fierce beast blood. And 3 vials of pure energy solution. I'll buy these first. Xiao Yu, upon hearing the command, reached up to the shelf and retrieved the requested items. She gently said, "Yes, please wait a moment." The requested items were quickly arranged neatly on the table. Xiao Yu then announced the price after a 50% discount. "These items come to 785,000 VND rounded up for you." Xiao Yu smiled brightly and added, "You can pay 700,000 VND. Yi Tian took out a golden card and handed it to Xiao Yu, then said, "This is a 1 million VND gold card." Yi Tian thought to himself, "Lucky I managed to get such a large amount from that phantom assassin guy." After completing the payment procedure, Xiao Yu returned the change. She gently spoke, "Here's your change. Please check it." Yi Tian took the small suitcase with the items, looking at it with suspicion. He thought to himself, "But if the Void Sect is giving me such a big discount, surely it's not just because I picked up some scrap." He slowly walked away, pondering, "But what could someone poor like me have that they're interested in?" Yi Tian purposely walked slowly to eavesdrop on their intentions, confused, wondering, "Don't they have anything else to say?" He reached for the door handle and muttered to himself, "All right, I'm really going now." At that moment, Xiao Yu's soft voice called out from behind, "Warrior, please stop." Hearing this, Yi Tian smiled with satisfaction, thinking, as expected, "It's not as simple as it seems." Yi Tian's footsteps immediately stopped. He turned half of his face back and pretended to ask seriously, "Is there something else?" Xiao Yu pointed her hand towards the stairs and gently said, "Our young mistress is also the manager of this martial pavilion. She wishes to meet with you. I wonder if it is convenient for you, warrior?" Yi Tian curved the corner of his mouth into a faint smile, glared at her, and seriously said, "Please, lead the way." The door was quickly opened. Yu Ling casually blew on the hot tea in her hands. Hearing a noise, she looked towards the door. Upon seeing the two figures enter, Yu Ling politely said, "Warrior, please." Yi Tian froze for a moment, thinking to himself, "So similar. It's really too similar." At this moment, Yu Ling slowly raised her hand and said, "Let me introduce myself." Her hand pointed towards Yi Tian, then she continued, "From the Mahai base, I am Yu Ling, an elite warrior at the peak of the expert level from the Mahai base, and I manage the martial pavilion branch at the Lin Hai base." Very quickly, Yi Tian grabbed Yu Ling's hand, and a powerful surge of energy shot out from his grasp. Both hands tightly clasped together, countless rays of power surrounded the hands of the two people. A notification appeared, indicating that the top-level cultivation talent had been successfully copied. Yi Tian's face was cold as he introduced himself. "Lin Hai Base, Yi Tian." The sky was clear, the clouds were white, and the air was fresh and cool. Yu Ling sat at the long table and said to Yi Tian, "Please, take a seat." Yi Tian quickly approached the chair and, feeling grateful, said, "Thank you." The teapot was being tilted to pour the tea. Yu Ling's voice echoed, "Those who can step onto the second floor of the martial pavilion are called distinguished guests." Yi Tian folded his arms and said, "It's just Yi Tian. I come from humble origins, unrelated to those noble families, so what's so distinguished about me?" As she poured the tea, Yu Ling replied, "You are right. Your distinction lies in your humble background." Her expression grew serious as she continued, "You are distinguished precisely because you have no ties to the noble families." Yi Tian thought for a moment. She was so calm, not lively and fond of laughter like Yi Yu. At this moment, Xiao Yu stepped forward and placed a teacup in front of him, politely inviting, "Please have some tea." Yu Ling took a sip of her tea, then quickly got straight to the point. "Let me speak plainly." She took out a cross-shaped object and placed it on the table, then said, "The reason I invited you for tea is to personally extend an invitation to you." The bright cross-shaped object lay precariously on the rough wooden table. Yu Ling crossed her arms in front of her chest, sitting with her legs crossed, and made a suggestion, "Join our martial pavilion." Yi Tian fell silent for a moment. He stared at Yu Ling, then saw the image of Yi Yu through her. Yi Yu murmured, "Brother, please join the martial pavilion." Yi Tian helplessly scratched his head, silently complaining, "Good heavens, I'd never been able to refuse a request from that face." After a moment's thought, Yi Tian raised his hand to pick up the teacup, then spoke, "I don't quite understand." He looked at Yu Ling and continued, "The Mahai base is a large-scale base, its strength unfathomable. With such a large scale, there must surely never be a lack of talent, right?" The teacup was close to Yi Tian's lips, and he glanced up before mentioning his own position. "Moreover, I am just a low-level warrior." Upon hearing this, Yu Ling stood up, walking as she spoke. The reason why a large-scale base can become a large-scale base. She approached the window ledge, gazing out at the view before continuing. "It's not because there's never a lack of talent. Then, Yu Ling turned her gaze back to Yi Tian, concluding, "It's because there's always a need for talent." Yi Tian was astonished when he heard this. His pupils contracted, and he thought to himself, "That makes a lot of sense." He crossed his arms and leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes in silent admiration. He hadn't expected such persuasive words from a girl who appeared so young. No wonder she came from a major base. His silly little sister would never be able to speak like that. Xiao Yu, who was standing beside him, chimed in agreement. What was there to hesitate about? This was a great opportunity. The girl stood there with her arms crossed, her mouth never stopping. Descendants of prominent families always want to climb to the highest branches, aiming for the Mahai base. But our young mistress doesn't even give them a second glance. Yi Tian closed his eyes in deep thought. Indeed, this was a good opportunity, but joining any organization would mean being bound by its rules. Once others discovered his special abilities, it would certainly lead to his death, with no place to bury him. Therefore, until this issue was resolved, maintaining independence was the only option. Yi Tian opened his eyes after making his decision. At that moment, Yu Ling stepped forward, leaned against the desk, and asked, "Are you hesitating?" She crossed her arms, her face cold, and asked again, "I really want to know why you're hesitating."